Test 1, 2. All right. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be. Well, the question has been lately, when is System Update 2 going to release? Now, my friends. It is available now. It loads so darn fast, you don't even know. That was it? That's it, huh? Okay. I didn't even know. Just wait. It loaded so fast. Okay. So I've got the release notes up here. There's quite a bit, as you can imagine. And if we can go check something out, like the user interface, like for example, they've added wake turbulence and wake turbulence visualization. So show you that's what I had to check too. I'm like, did it even load? Did I get it? So I went and checked some of the notes, and then I went and checked some of the settings. I'm like, okay, well I got that. Oh, all right, yeah. So I was a little disappointed that with all the fixes that they've done, I know it's a lot of work. I was hoping for a little bit more on the, hey, what's new? And we may discover more of what's new features. Dun, 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 dun. Get this out of the way here. All right, release notes. I probably won't do them all, especially at the end where they're just covering level of details, changes. Okay, if you're playing on PC, outdated packages in your community folder may have an unexpected impact on the title's performance and behavior. So normally when doing an update, you want to kind of like move all your community stuff out for a little while and then do it. And then if you suffer from stability issues or long loading times, move your community packages to another folder before relaunching the title. Okay. Should always do this anyway. NVIDIA has released their latest GeForce Game Ready driver 576.40, and we recommend that all NVIDIA GPU owners update to the latest driver version. More recent NVIDIA driver versions resolve certain crashes with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and improve performance and stability. More details at NVIDIA. Okay, definitely do that. Now, after you do a systems update and you do your NVIDIA driver update, you may want to restart a couple of times. One, to just set it into memory. But as soon as you do that, you may also notice that Windows will then throw an update at you as well. So I know you may just want to just load it, jump in there and start things. Check your Windows updates, okay? It doesn't say that here to make sure your Windows is up to date. But as soon as I finished loading everything and restarted a couple of times, bam, here comes a big compatibility fix or whatever it was in your update. An issue has been identified where selecting 3 times or 4 times for DLSS frame generation may lead to an application instability. Fix is underway and will be available soon. As a workaround, NVIDIA app users can use the DLSS override to enable DLSS multi-frame generation. Okay, so here are the table of contents. If you want to skip this video that I'm doing here and read through, you just want to go check it out yourself, just head over to the main forums. Just go to the main Flight Simulator page. It's going to be under the main news. You don't even have to go into the forums. Okay, general updates, aircraft core systems, aircraft gameplay, career mode, online services, airports, scenery, miscellaneous, virtual reality, controls and peripherals, activities, and the developer tools. Did we just suddenly it's expanded. What the hell happened? It like expanded and shifted. That's weird. One moment, let me try to sort this out here on the screen for you. Windows, not a good time to be messing up. And not a good time to be getting calls. Sheesh. Sheesh. One moment, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what I toggled and did something here. Set the transformation. Unbelievable. Everything is fine until it's not. I don't know why it's recentering it funny like that. It was just perfect a minute ago. Now, why is it not centering properly? Dang you, Windows. Okay. I see. Well, what happened is I moved it to another monitor so I could read it nice and easy right in front of me instead of reading it looking sideways. And that's what it did. It didn't like moving to another monitor. I do want to blow it up so you can read the text if you want. Okay. Controls and peripherals, activities, and developer tools. General updates. Dumps console logs when reporting an issue. Renamed gyro drift to gyro drift compensation to be more in line with other assistants. Please let me know if you're having any other problems with the stream. Hello, Bruno. Okay. Re-added turbulence assistance. Added a wake turbulence visualization option. Now, this is how I could tell that it actually had updated my simulator. Like, man, that went so fast. Did it really? So under flight model, flight interface, wake turbulence visualizations. Okay. I'm like, all right, I got it. Again, yeah, I think you might be blown away at just how fast it loads the thing. Added a wake turbulence assistance. It's now possible to filter seaplane base airports using the world map filters. Okay, so I had to go check that one too. So down here in the world map, they were supposed to add, it said they were adding clouds into the world map. Clouds were going to be default, but I don't see any clouds. I miss the 2020 visualizations. I miss just sitting there watching the world do its thing. All right, but here it is, seaplane bases. Yeah, I used to love just leaving the world up as kind of like a screensaver, you know, just watching the clouds go round. A new validation process has been developed to give more information and control to aircraft developers over the career compatibility. A new field has been added to the FLT sim section. Targeted specializations, supported by the sim object editor, to list the expected specialization with which the given aircraft should be compatible. During the ingestion process, the field will be compared to the result of the career compatibility process to confirm its result. A new field has been added in the FLT sim section, targeted specializations, supported by the sim object editor, to list the expected specialization with which the given aircraft should be compatible. During the ingestion process, the field will be compared to the result of the career compatibility process to confirm its results. This field must be filled to be compatible with career. I don't know what that means at all. Stability and performance. Added option to reduce rolling cache size at the cost of clearing current cache. We can reduce the rolling cache size at the cost of clearing the current cache. Let's check it out. So under settings, should be the online settings. Down here at the bottom, data consumption, rolling cache settings, rolling cache limit, rolling cache path, data consumption, data tracking, bandwidth. I don't see anything about clearing. You can, I think, just reduce the size. Add an option to reduce rolling cache size at the cost of clearing cache. So, I don't know if you could do that before. But we can... Well, I'm not going to mess with this right now, but I guess you can just change this number and lower it now, so that it'll just wipe out whatever it's going to take out. Okay. Improved loading times for packages with lots of individual files. Fixed an issue. Your FS24 is updating? Mine did it so fast, I couldn't even tell. I have a fiber optic line. That's could be it. But still, I'm used to it. Hey, this, something's going on. We're updating the thing, but I couldn't tell it from any other load. And that's pretty cool. Improved loading times for packages. Yeah, fixed an issue where rapidly switching between tabs in the settings menu could lead to unexpected behavior and performance issues. Reduced request count when loading models by pre-computing model statistics on package ingestion. Fixed a rare crash where internet connection was lost. Fixed a crash when suspending the sim on Xbox. Improved the time it takes to open the game panels. Fixed a crash when changing DLSS quality mode during VR. Reduced performance hit when avatars near objects with complex collisions. Fixed a crash when many avatars meet up online. Fixed a potential infinite loading when importing config files. Rare crash caused by live traffic. Improved rolling cache usage. Cool. Fixed crashes inside GPU driver due to off by one error inside our texture loading code. Fixed double focus issue. Is UI lists. I'm guessing that's in UI lists. Fixed aircraft selector showing an empty tile when opened. I've lost myself. It jumps real fast. Maybe I should be using this little bar on the side here. One of the ones we're going to come across earlier that might interest you right away, they said they've added DLSS 4 natively. You don't have to go into the NVIDIA thing and go messing around with finding settings and forcing it to do DLSS 4 natively. My goodness, man. This thing moves around and moved around on me. All right. Added more, let's just start there. Added more information to debug FPS. Oh, yeah. Added more information to debug FPS. This is probably in the developer panel. Available VRAM on device, latitude, longitude, altitude, GPU to make it easier to diagnose issues reported by users, sharing screenshots in forums. Fixed crash when trying to remove a facility airport from the cache, while the QMID has no matching entry. Fix some infinite loading on boot due to deadlock issues inside the input-output code. Added footsteps when walking as an avatar. I wonder if they added all I could think about is them adding like hardwood floors when you're walking out in the middle of the tundra. Did they add footsteps for each type of environment that you're walking in? The crunching of leaves, the squishing of mud, or is it all just hardwood floors? Okay. Fixed community packages being duplicated inside content XML on each boot. Already existing duplicates are removed from file on boot. Fix the quit to desktop button. I didn't know there was a problem with that one. Fixed an issue where the tail number of aircrafts were not correctly applied. Special characters can no longer be entered in the tail number field on the aircraft identification menu. Fixed arrow keys not doing anything when inputting text. Fixed incorrect loading of aircraft airline codes. Fixed number for not formatting correctly. General VR fixes. Fix the ratio of panels in VR Flight. Fix the appearance of the toolbar when going out of VR Flight. Fix some 3D UI that were appearing in front of the panels in VR Flight. Modified profile statistics, navigation, and tab switching. Fixed navigation missing on logbook entries list. Fixed logbook entries list sorting incorrectly. Right? A lot of people have been reporting that the logbook is wickedly messed up. Fixed logbook entries list sorting incorrectly. Fixed action title not scrolling when hovering on gamepad. Reverse notification order. They are now listed from newest to oldest. Fixed a bug where quickly swapping option category could lead to man. The scrolling is bad. Oh, I'm in hell. Really? How did we get so far off just by moving that thing around? My goodness. Right, that's where we were. Fixed a bug where quickly swapping option category could lead to entries list. Fixed logbook entries list sorting incorrectly. Fixed action titles not scrolling when hovered on gamepad. Reverse notification order. They are now listed from newest to oldest. Fixed a bug where quickly swapping option category lead to superimposed categories. Fixed debug display for liveries color fallback. Fixed tarmac workers sometimes overlapping on the apron. Fixed avatar and shadow disappearing when not moving as avatar. Fixed a bug where quickly swapping option category could lead to superimposed categories. Fixed debug display for liveries color fallback. Okay, fixed tarmac workers overlapping on the apron. Shadows disappearing. Fixed cabin service always reloading when going in free flight world map. Now it reloads only when you enter the free flight menu. Increased screen exposure under heavy cloud cover. Improved avatar third view to have the same behavior as avatar first view. Fixed showcases avatar and cockpit external link to first third when allowed. Fixed little movements with avatar. First view less blocked. Fixed invisible tent material. Fixed drone camera speed being FPS dependent when it shouldn't. Fixed windshield setting and resetting. Fixed two large air traffic nameplates when zooming in. Clouds are now displayed by default in the world map. Fixed key mapping for pause on, pause off, and toggle pause toggle. Generic airport bug fixes fixed an issue where the pop-up to inform that the player needs to restart. Game was missing after changing the global rendering quality in the settings. Fixed friends appearing on free flight world map when they are not in a free flight session. Fixed microphone usage detected by Windows even when not inside a group session. Fixed weather icon not changing when selecting weather presets and flight conditions screen. Fixed crash on launch if exe XML is invalid. Fixed water self-shading artifact when ray traced shadows are enabled. Changing a graphical or photogrammetry setting now correctly displays a loading pop-up. Restored Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 sorting order for liveries of non-modular aircraft in aircraft selection configurator. Fixed number turning to null when changing language. Flight model in the setting now doesn't switch unless the user confirms it. Fixed synchronization of planes SimBar when the pilot is out from the cockpit. Fixed a jitter when changing the text size in the accessibility settings. Fixed crash happening when switching between aircraft variations quickly. One moment. Fixed an issue where the controller icon can be displayed in the world photographer list when the keyboard was the active peripheral. Fixed crash occurring when generating text during flight loading. Fixed infinite loading with aircraft containing WASM when loading creates a low memory. 4.6 gigabyte, Bruno says. It's also fiber. I don't know why it's taking so long. Possibly everybody's just now getting the news and everybody's getting starting to load it, or everybody's hitting the servers right now. Could be. I found out 2 hours ago. Fixed infinite loading with aircraft containing fixed purple outline that can appear on HUD display against a bright sky background on Xbox. Fixed an issue where friends currently playing the title wouldn't be differentiated from the friends currently online, but not in game. Happy flying, Bruno. Fixed control input curve inverted on X-axis. Fixed an issue where the flight condition live preset was not dynamically translated. Fixed some textures that were not properly set on several meshes. Fixed minimize panel still showed a blurry content instead of really minimizing. Fixed level of details on several cargo props. Fixed crash occurring when ending flight with plane using WASM and SimConnect. Fixed latency and repetition for keyboard input action. Fixed crash in low-level input initialization when starting the game on Xbox. Fixed the behavior of the sliders in the showcase tab of the camera panel. Fixed the scanning of input in the action details. Fixed wrong color shift when using HDR10, mostly visible on bright saturated colors like blue ribbons. Improved level of details on many assets. Added loading state to the panel camera while it's retrieving its data. Fixed point moving out of the curve when editing extremely dead zone of device hardware settings. Fixed point moving out of the curve when editing extremely dead zone of device hardware settings. I wonder if that's going to help with the right rudder pull I've been having. Fixed model behaviors timings on resume after pause. Fixed dirt displaying on aircraft in the career aircraft store and in free flight after playing a freelancer mission in career. Fixed an issue where legacy Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 stats were not present when hovering them in the aircraft selector. Fixed ray march reflections shift on screen borders. Fixed some UI buttons in FreeCam not being interactable with the mouse. Fixed an issue where the live airport activity page displayed inconsistent or incoherent data. Fixed replication of pilot and multiplayer. Fixed keyboard input latency when low frame rate and pressing key for a long time. Fixed game input, Xbox, joystick axis, scan too sensitive and triggered even if the stick was not moved. Fixed infinite loading on seafront packages. Modified cabin services in free flight. Rule map to not recreate one that is already in the aircraft. Changed light range minimum value from 0.1 to 0.0001. Light range minimum value. Fixed an issue where the air traffic control options cannot be scrolled. Aha! Nice! Yay! Fixed a bug on Xbox where the UI did not reflect the actual settings, sounds, language, etc. Fixed the pop-up with the third-party notices. Fixed an issue where the aircraft tile could be missing in the aircraft list in a specific condition. Fixed the infinite loading when loading flight with aircraft containing WASM after canceling a loading with a aircraft containing WASM. Okay, Bruno's just finished. All right. FCR updates. Added any builds 3 A350 enhancements for replay. Fixed a bug where FCR control panel would disappear after attempting to use external pop-out. Fixed a bug in FCR where toggling visibility for ghosts would cause them to fall back behind their offset position. Fixed a bug in FCR where ghost aircraft would remain invisible until their positional settings are changed. Fixed sim randomly taking a long time to exit. Fixed an issue where the notification of group invitation and friend invitation were excluded from the gameplay state. Modified repair coverage to work as a reduction on repair or as a bonus for selling the aircraft. Added liquid on fuel and payload weight graph. Fixed fuel and payload weight graph not showing the same data as in-game or in the external flight bag. Fixed login pop-up sometimes not appearing for new users. Fixed freeze occurring sometimes when loading a flight with an aircraft containing WASM. Fixed no input available on xCloud when the safe mode pop-up is displayed during a game boot. Fixed game pause state when locking Windows sessions. Fixed QR code not appearing on safe boot pop-up. Fixed an issue where incorrect metrics were used for the speed when in hybrid unit of measurement. Fixed subtitle speed in non-Latin languages. Fixed in-game panels disappearing when using break command on gamepad. Fixed numerous test issues in free flight that could arise after changing the language without restarting the game. Fixed play animations not at the same time. There's going to be some up ahead too with specific aircraft. They're fixing the animations on some of the propellers. Like you may have noticed, they're not spinning the right speeds, and they've been tackling that. So, fixed crash when loading aircraft with WASM. Fixed ray marks reflections ghosting issues. Fixed world map interacted behind the RFB panel. Fixed an issue where the weather data on the world map cards was inconsistent with other data showing in the game. Fixed airport names, nameplates, and tooltips not displayed in external windows. Fixed an issue where the player couldn't access the reset filters button in the world map filters using a gamepad. Fixed infinite loading on seafront packages. Fixed a potential crash in initial loading when the safe boot pop-up disappears. Fixed exposure regression introduced in SU1 while fixing too dark exposure under heavy cloud coverage, which caused overexposure and many other unwanted situations. Please note that this won't address the issue of excessively bright lights in many sceneries at night, as it's a light intensity issue unrelated to exposure. Install, performance, and graphics. Added FSR frame generation. It can be activated in graphics settings. It can cause crash for some users on NVIDIA cards at the moment. Here we go. Added DLSS4 native support with multi-frame generation. I know many of you folks are happy about that. Added an option in the graphics menu to globally bias the auto exposure. That's it. Backwards compatibility bug fixes. Fixed missing pilot, co-pilot in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 aircraft. Fixed lagged animation when looking outside of the bounding sphere for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 packages only. Okay, now I suppose I can go through all these, but this is now all the aircraft updates. So this is just aircraft in general, I believe. Fixed tooltips missing in cockpit camera. Fixed highlights for elements in showcase camera. Remove tooltips in showcase camera when using the mouse. Fixed propellers projecting dust, snow, water in correct direction when they are in reverse mode. Well, that's cool. Fixed a crash when elevator up limit 0 equals 0 in the aeroplane geometry section of the light model config file. Fixed pilot co-pilot visibility with cockpit camera. Fixed bug when aircraft's colors change when getting away or getting closer. Fixed incorrect rain masking and flow direction. Fixed tail number not similar to the custom one from the aircraft selector in free flight. Here we go. Fixed some propeller rotor turbine rotation not being replicated on first-party aircraft in multiplayer. No, that wasn't the issue. But I saw that they were fixing some propeller rotor and turbine rotation speed animation, blah, blah, blah. Fixed an issue causing the propeller to stop animating when switching aircraft with the aircraft selector. Modified cabin surfaces to be reloaded when going back after launching a free flight. Fixed noticeable weakened surface inputs when exiting photo mode, similar to lag introduced when taking control over AP. Autopilot. Interior interactions can now be reached near the basket during pre-flight. The Cessna 172 fixed fuel selector not in good position when Control E is used to start the aircraft. Fixed quick trim for helicopters without autopilot. Fixed an issue causing local VARs, EX1 flight parameters to not get saved properly. Fixed registration number not being displayed on the NPC aircraft. Fixed ATC ID not used when custom tail number is cleared. Fixed white dot doesn't disappear in cockpit view after a while without movements. Fixed cockpit camera returns to true cockpit after quick view. When an instrument was focused, now returns to pilot view. Fixed cockpit interior occluder leaks along the screen sides. Fixed clipping effect at the beginning of the engine heat. Fixed VFX for grass landings. Added different loads in both storage of the DA62. Fixed camera cockpit substate changed to pilot when the position was reset. Fixed custom view shared with all of the aircraft when created until the game is restart. The state of aircraft covers is now replicated in multiplayer. Fixed palette for adaptive liveries, cultural colors, LBL. Cargo Europe type changed to Cargo Occident, and Cargo SA changed to Cargo Latin. Fixed current color palettes for aircraft liveries. Added new color palettes. Fixed custom VFR pilot camera position used for other aircraft. Fixed key cycle pilot view back and key cycle pilot view next. Don't allow to enter instruments meta context anymore. Completed some unfinished debug windows for helicopters. Improved debug aircraft weight page to detect unrealistic MOIs. Added a fallback to have the weight in the cargo even if no graph SPC is available. Improved conditions for using the flashlight automatically. External light shafts are now occluded inside cockpits. Added a notification when the envelope overheats for the hot air balloon experience. Fixed particles from prop wash to be affected by thrust magnitude and reverse throttle. Fixed all the Asobo aircraft thumbnails by regenerating them. Color from the menu selection now match the ones in the free flight. Yeah, I've noticed that. When you go in there to pick a plane, and it's got little tiny thumbnail. Passive aircraft update services. Removed unwanted visible details and cockpit reflections. Fixed glitching rain on windshield when the velocity is changed. Added FX template for water drop at low speed. Added the possibility to override the RPN code of the glider ballast FX. Introduced a new external HUD, more relevant for the hot air balloon experience. That's nice. Fixed propellers flickering when multiple instances of the same plane are visible. Fixed missing rain on windshield. Fixed updated DA6 passenger seats causing rendering issues in other aircraft, mistakenly referencing them. Created a V2 version of those seats with the added 3D model for the DA62 to use. Fixed wrong aircraft in the aircraft configurator after player go straight to the free flight configurator after playing challenge or career. Fixed the initialization of object class in case of this field was empty and the category was not an airplane, a helicopter, or a hot air balloon. Fixed an issue where community and edited packages would be missing info in the selector. Fixed part info driven animations that sometimes wouldn't work. Fixed propeller blur not consistently covering the blade tips. Fixed wake turbulence with multiplayer planes. Fixed rendering of the pilot tube covers. Fixed rectangle appearing on top of registration for some 3D party planes from MFS 2020. Hide avatar in aircraft if it's not edited for SR pilot system. Hide avatar in aircraft if it's not edited for SR pilot system. That one just added twice. Fixed tail number not similar to the custom one from the aircraft selector in free flight. Fixed windshield rain effect appearing on the HUD display. Okay, then this goes over individual aircraft. The Aero Elvira Optica. Got friends. Fixed Aero Elvira Optica with version 009. Reverted to original fuel system. Fixed in SU1. Fixed spawning with elevator trim full forward. Removed heat blur VR check. Right eye fixed in SU1. Reverted avionics brightness. Fixed exterior registration color and added dynamic support. Fixed headphone mode not allowing for aircraft exit entrance. Added additional thumbnails for career mode and configure menu. Synced mandatory exterior coating updates with interior updates. Fixed ability to load, offload Copilot from the EFB seat selection. Fixed ability to load, offload Copilot from the EFB seat selection. Nice. Temporarily removed heat blur effects while in virtual reality. Fully upgraded to modern fuel systems to fix career refueling issues. Modified first aid kit artwork. Added new thumbnails to account for first aid kit artwork changes. Air Tractor AT802 for your what's the word I'm looking for? Crop dusting. When you're doing the crop dusting stuff, that aircraft. Fixed animation rudder trim wheel. Fixed checklist eyes icon for gear front on wheels variation. Fixed an issue on the AT802 that prevented the starter switch from being operated while the engine's running. Added condition speed to trigger vortex effect on crop dusting trail. Added condition speed to trigger vortex effect on crop dusting trail. That's kind of neat. Fixed an issue that causes the AT802 to spawn without fuel when started in free flight in parking. Fixed an issue on the AT802 preventing the emergency dump trapdoor from animating properly. Fixed avionics switch not turning off air traffic control connection to ComNav channels. Fixed GTR225 and GNS430 to no longer modify the same COM index. Fixed AT802 wear and tear brake sound when brakes were damaged and played no sound. Fixed AT802 trim indicator. Cool. Fixed an issue on the AT802 causing the spray pump not to be animated. Fixed liquid tank value set from the EFB being overwritten when launching a flight. MVP 50 now connected on the main bus instead of the avionics bus. Fixed ground light display on agricultural version. Improved front wheel LODs visual. Fixed tire spinning on wheel variation. Added registration number in cockpit. Fixed hour meter instrument. Fixed animation of floats. Landing gear. Fixed windshield material. Improved glass material in cockpit. Fixed eye checklist on landing gear front left. Fixed custom color on aerial app variation. Added heading indicator instrument in firefighting and agricultural cockpit. Nice. Fixed glass cockpit being always off when starting in cold and dark. The Airbus 400M Atlas. Any builds fixed Airbus A400M with versions 0.0.19. Rudder controls tiller is off by default, blocking career. Hey, thank you very much. Farmer Tech 51. Hey, thank you so much. MCDU does not reflect fuel input from EFB, unable to enter fuel values manually. The GPU does not appear when toggled on the EFB in ground menu and in panel state menu. Unexpected errors triggered when arriving in game, forcing player to go back to the main menu. Engines not responsive when OAT below 0 degrees Celsius. The Airbus A310 and the 300. Any builds fixed Airbus A310-300 with version 0.0.17. On an ILS approach, LOOONG is displayed on FMA after the localizer has been intercepted on glide slope. FMA should change from LOOONG to LOOONG. In career mode, passengers have loaded 100%, but the sim says the load percent is at 0. Checklist is not included in the drop-down EFB, but is included in the cockpit EFB. Aircraft over G's on RTC screen in career. Another skip-related state issue prevents career use properly. Cannot scroll through approach departure pages to select approaches on the CDU. Passenger seat found equals 0. Flight model seems odd. Exit flight game crashed. Very long loading times, more than 3 minutes. AP was already on when spawning cold and dark. Wheels are passing through the ground. External power is not working 100%. Sometimes you have to restart in order to have it available. Flap info is not updated on external HUD. Missing pre-flight interactions for covers and chocks. Aircraft froze or crashed when finishing up loading in an airport in the Xbox Series S. The Airbus A321. Any builds fixed Airbus A321 with version 0.019. Aircraft engine is way quieter based on the turbofan's loudness unit when full throttle on ground in both perspectives. There's a gap in the aircraft. It doesn't say where. There's a gap somewhere. The EFB brakes the plane when sinking to FMS, loading A321R, resulting in crash after starting free flight in Xbox Series S. Farmer Tech 51 says, I guess I'll get mine started updating tonight before bed. I was surprised, Farmer Tech 51. I couldn't tell that the thing updated. I loaded in and it loaded just as it normally does. And I'm like, did it go? Did I get the update? And then I started reading through some of the notes and checking the settings, and sure enough, it didn't take long at all for me. It didn't take very long for Bruno either, and not that long. But really, I mean, I didn't notice any difference between any other normal load. It was fast. Back to the 321. Communication batteries are off. Front wheel is locked. GPU is connected and moved with the pushback. No working avionics. As of 18/11/2024, avionics are available. No pin in pre-flight. Some checklist cameras are completely off. Some tooltip states missing. No interaction volume on covers plus chocks. Bad tires highlights. No interaction on flaps. No multiple highlights on flaps. I'm guessing these are things that they have fixed. No multiple highlights on elevator. Interactions on aileron don't work. Bad pin placement on elevator. Rudder controls tillers off by default. The option is in any build's EFB. No click spot to exit the plane. TCAS not operative. The A330 and 300. Engine audio is quieter and does not meet turbofan jet standard LU unit in both perspectives. Airbus A322 instrument views not functioning correctly. Aircraft over G's on RTC screen in career and other skip-related state issues prevent career use properly. Farmer Tech 51 odd, especially to be 4.6 gigs. Yeah. Avatar spawn nodes in the wrong place. I do have fiber optic, but still, even then, I thought I would notice it taking a little bit longer. No. So, boy, they have optimized it and optimized it well. And I may have caught it too. As soon as I got the announcement that the update had been released, I jumped on it right away. And, now that everybody's starting to catch on that they released it, they gave us no heads up. It was just, it'll happen when it happens. No pins on tire flaps, only 2 tires good for interaction. No multiple highlights on flaps, no aileron interaction in pre-flight. No multiple highlights on elevator. All checklist cameras are offset. Entrance doors are not interactive. Frozen at spawn with avionics off and fuel 0. Startup shortcut, RB and D-pad down, doesn't seem to work. Parking brakes not set when loading taxi FLT. TCAS in-op fixed. Using skip to descent causes aircraft to change configuration and autopilot settings rapidly. Navigation lights are dim and light disappears as zoom is moved outward. Xbox users often crash when loading into large airports in the simulator. It's an out-of-memory error. The A330, 743L, and the Beluga XL. English, US, and DEAC description is missing. Cannot scroll through approach departure pages to select approaches on the CDU. Crew member is clipping through floor of the cargo hold. Player receives aviator performance penalty. G-force succeeded during career mode. Over G, I've heard they're fixing that. So every time in career mode, you come down for a landing, and as soon as you land, you get a flaps overspeed. I guess they fixed that. Over G speed warning when skipping in career. No nose wheel steering forced on by default. Rudder controls tiller is off by default. The option is in any build's EFB. Bad pin placement on elevator. No multiple highlights on elevator. Blade pin placement on flaps. No multiple highlights on flaps. Only 2 tires are good for interactions. Bad tires, highlights. No aircraft tile in briefing. Plus, no covers in pre-flight state. During the briefing screen, the plane is in motion when it should be apron at its parking slot. Startup shortcut. Right button plus D-pad down doesn't seem to work. The Airbus helicopter H125, fixed fuel consumption. Added DH tooltip to radar altimeter. Added in-op to trim release tooltip. Added outer knob cursor control tooltip and in-op tag. Added check gov off. Fixed alternator light when alternator light not lit when the related breaker is pulled. Fixed PFD screen not being bright enough in low light situations. Fixed alternator producing too much tension too quickly when engaging the starter. Added dirts for aerial app variations. Corrected some level of detail transitions for flight seeing, Statica 1, 3, 5 liveries. Improved some tooltips. Added dirt level of details. Improved luminosity off instrument at night. Maybe that means of. Improved luminosity of instrument at night. Changed airspeed indicator. Fixed slight variation in variometer values between visual and HUD. Improved visual on dust dirt. Fixed cropped stopwatch dial. Added new interaction to stopwatch knob. Tuned the main rotor and tail rotor to fix the NR in auto rotation. Engine off, NR will now increase and require collective input to maintain 410 NR at 60 KIAS. The glide ratio in auto rotation, 0.54 nautical miles, 1,000 feet, 60 KIS, 410 NR. The pitch control to VNE, the retreating blade stall above the VNE, the max cruising speed, and the ground handling with tail rotor input on grass surface. It's for all you incredibly knowledgeable helicopter people. Airship Industries, the Skyship 600. Fixed tooltip door to exit. Added icing to the interior cabin windows. Inverted direction of interactions on damper levels. AM meter is now functional and behaves according to its knob. Added DC screen. Set tilt to 0 in cruise. Replaced comm nav panels by transponder. Made GNS 430 work when starting in cold and dark. Fixed generator warning lights. Fixed oil pressure warning lights. Reduced the fuel flow scaler to match the expected range and fuel consumption. Fixed interior, minor LOD issue. Fixed standing passenger. Adjust engine efficiency to match power at max RPM 255, horsepower at 5,200 RPM, and max continuous 230 horsepower at 4,800 RPM. Adjust drag to match the expected maximum airspeed. Adjust MOI on pitch and yaw for better controllability. Fixed exterior parts level of details issue. Fixed icing visual into cabin. Added auto position to ballonet fan switches. Fixed visual of a barometer glass. Improved airship system simulation and skyship initial states to avoid chaotic behavior. The amphibian Aerospace Albatross G111, HU16, and G111T. Mike Johnson, fixed amphibian Aerospace Albatross G111, HU16, GPS and avionics emissive values, fixed requirements due to SU1 scene brightness exposure changes. Windshield edging flickering fixed. Insects removed from fuselage side glass. HU-16 cockpit label fixes. Royal Canadian Air Force livery historical added. Workaround for major rendering issue with windshield refraction coming in. System update 1 basically unflyable without a fix. Windshield texture improvements. Smoother oil cooler flap and cowl flap animations. Ooh, my favorite, the Archer Midnight. FlightFX fixed Archer Midnight with versions 1.3.5. The camera's position determines whether the aircraft is turned on when the aircraft mode is set to off. Character is not facing the plane at spawn. Haven't had that happen. Incorrect navigation graph. Problem with electric engine SimBar not set on startup. Circuit electrical engine on. Missing files. Taxi FLT. Descent FLT. And final FLT. Battery is not at 100% at start. Good, that's nice. Engine 2 and 3 have 0% wear and tear at startup. Motors get destroyed by wear and tear very fast. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's absurdly ridiculous. It's absurdly ridiculous. Yeah, as soon as you take off and start flying that thing around, engines damaged, engines damaged, engines damaged. On the runway, by default, in ground mode, hard to know how to take off, propeller animation doesn't update as fast as it should. Yeah, that I've noticed a lot. Like, what's up with these propellers? The pit special. Visual helper is not working for a few checks. Some checklist items are not translated. Interactable buttons, levers do not produce sound when moved, interacted with. Multiple aircraft buttons and switches do not have sound effects when interacted with. Aircraft has no ground and water effects. Oil gauge extends without the oil cap opening. Specific covers will not be covered by the mission flow. Skipping to taxi doesn't remove engine covers. Character is not facing the plane spawn. Aviator performance that contains debug text because stalling speed is not set in the aircraft config files. Missing highlight pre-flight. No level of detail in the checklist. Cannot take off. Cannot take of. No enough power. Cannot take off. Not enough power. Elevator, no highlight. Interactive volumes. Unrealistic roll rate, too low. Too much yaw stability. The Beechcraft Baron G58. Unable to load Copilot. Most buttons and switches don't have sound effects. Multiple knobs and switches lack audio. Cowl flap not animating. Prop feathering not animated correctly. Registration livery colors. Tail numbers does not show up on the external view. Engine exhaust lacks heat animation. Multiple issues with tooltips. Navigation, strobe, and wing light bulbs are too dim. Camera is in the aircraft during the RTC because of the RTC node's position. SimVar, I have noticed that. Where you go to your seat camera and all of a sudden your seat camera is out on a wing somewhere. SimVar flaps currently speed limitations incorrectly set. Aircraft will move after turning on the engines even with parking brakes set. Yikes. Covers are not removed when loading the taxi FLT. No collision on wings. Prop sync in-op. The Bonanza G36. Any builds fixed, blah, blah, blah. Adjustment to enable better career compatibility. The Beechcraft C90 GTX King Air. EFB route does not transfer to avionics. Unable to hear another player's aircraft engine in multiplayer. Unable to hear audio identification of nav aids, ILS, VOR, despite the volume selection selected at 100%. There is no tooltip on circuit breakers located on the circuit breaker panel and on the buttons located on the MCDU panel. Auto start engine do not work properly. King Air GTX is not available for passenger carrying and career, only VIP and medical evacuation. There's an incorrect input indicator on pitch trim while using a controller. In career mode, skip function for a medevac mission. Checklist items are not completed prior to takeoff. EFB landing performance data will not calculate for destination when in flight with approach speed or METAR. Approach speeds or METAR. EFB performance data does not calculate takeoff or landing data. Circuit breakers on pilot and co-pilot side have no function and do not impact any systems in the aircraft. Few untranslated items in Polish, Italian, Norwegian, and Russian languages. Before starting checklist, electrical system check calls for needle and green arc, but no green arc on gauge. Inaccurate translation in Polish language. Control display unit CDU 3000 does not automatically initialize with FMS position using skip function in career mode. Career mode ATC files the med evac mission at flight level 450. Flight level 450 is a mission task. Max altitude for the G90 GTX is flight level 300. EFB passenger and fuel quantity changes between hangar EFB performance planning and ready to fly EFB performance planning. Medical variant passengers are not seated properly. Vehicle ambulance graphics merge with hangar during med evac missions. Aircraft disappears at certain distance. And again, I'm hoping that these are not things that are still wrong. I'm hoping that these are now issues that they've addressed. Because I'm used to reading, fix this, fix that, updated this, fix that, before reading everything. Forward storage compartment doors come off, revealing forward storage compartment doors. Landing gear can retract while plane is on the ground. Unable to set approach procedures for flight plans. Center console buttons are all in-op. No clear way to back out a waypoint information screen. Cannot load or activate any procedures into flight plan. The Bell 407. Some of text and labels are either unreadable or in low resolution. Auto start does not function properly and engine quits. Level of detail issues on resume main menu screen. Some knobs lack turning animation. The 737 MAX 8. Control surfaces are heavier when facing hydraulic failure. Fixed heat engine FX issue. Fix altitude warning playing in cold and dark. Modified radio knob tooltips to show the current standby frequency. Fix the name of the Sun Express livery in the aircraft selection. Fixed flight and landing altitude knob animations. Fixed pilot camera position. Fixed altitude knob animation. Added automatic lighting adjustments on the spawn to better match the ambient lighting. Fixed overhead and pedestal screens that were incorrectly tied to their section light potentiometer. Adjusted automatic brightness curve for some screens that were hardly readable under some weather-like conditions. I wonder if they fixed the one where it's just like super bright. Every time you get into the plane, the screens are super bright. Fixed XPDR not receiving inputs. Added livery Sun Express. Debugged the livery Korean Air. Debugged commercial static 03. Fixed GPU not turning on plane when batteries off. Fixed avionics fans sound playing at the wrong time. Fixed an issue on the 737 that prevented its device system to not work properly. Fixed screen and some avionics. Powering on when they shouldn't in cold and dark. Updated hydraulic system configuration and FLTs to fix low hydraulic fluid readings. Nice. Fixed transponder button, wrong animation. Fixed missing visual indicator on MFD EFIS knobs. Added FX to simulate snow blowed by engines when reversed. Fixed an issue where engines would not start in cold conditions. Adjusted step climb logic on the CDU VNAV cruise page to more closely match real-world behavior. Updated the background and text colors on the COM radios, NAV radios, ADF radios, and MCP window to match real-world look and feel. Fixed issue to verify the active nav frequency in the radios when the aircraft loads are set to the correct nav mod, ILS, or VOR. Fixed external lights doesn't work on BB variation. Added fixed AFDS flood light doesn't work in cockpit. Fixed landing gear lever glass shader issue. Fixed several issues on different liveries. Fixed some issues on third model. Improved visual of the BBJ cabin. Fixed alternators not being usable after activating the GPU. Implemented 737 specific climb and descent speed restrictor build logic. Fixed rough autopilot altitude capturing. Fixed automatic loading of airport transition altitude and levels. Fixed an issue where an inactive route had to be executed twice and some data was lost. Enhance the bowed rotor motoring logic during engine startup. Adjust erroneous warnings on engine indicators during engine startup. Corrected turn radius on ND for approach and missed approach legs. Fixed left ADF mode knob. Boeing 747-400 LCF, the Dream Lifter. Added realistic spool-up times when setting takeoff thrust. Removed engine and pitot covers for pre-flight walk-around. Added aircraft configurations to flight performance files. Fixed an issue where the active comm frequency was not appropriately set when spawning into a flight on the runway. Yeah, I know, right? Farmer Tech says that's a lot of fixes. Well, considering how angry people have been since the start, yeah, they better go for broke right now and try to fix everything. There's some things I'm going to be looking for when I get back in there. One, I'm hoping as I keep reading through here and I get to the some of these planes that they fix the brakes. My God, the brakes are like super brakes. I press the brakes and I flip right over. Added alternate gear extension, added engine vortex ground effects, added AP autopilot disconnect bar animation, fixed excessive turn radius on ND for approach and missed approach legs, added automatic loading of airport transition altitude and level, implemented updated simulation of aircraft hydraulics, including wear and tear, and allowing for partial or full systems to be disabled. Fixed auto start, Control E not starting the engines. So true, he says. Takeoff pre-pressurization only happens if the engines are running and bleed air is available now. Now targeting plus 0.1 PSID cabin pressure differential during takeoff. Added LDG alt flag on PFD and improved landing altitude logic. Fixed ident page navigation database dates. Fixed CLB D-rate logic to be in accordance with the FCOM. Fixed VNAV path overshoot at TD when descent speed is equal to or slightly lower than the cruise speed. Fixed EFB performance data distance calculations. The Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental. Labels can be seen strobing when looking at the cabinets behind the co-pilot and passenger seats of the Boeing 747-8I. Cursor control does not work, so there is no way to interact with lower MFD, EI, CAS, or complete checklist items. Engine fan blade spin is missing. Speed brake handle click spot is too big and makes interacting with the CDU too difficult, especially for CLR. Reverse thrust click spots is almost impossible to click, and even when clicked, it cannot be moved. Engine 3 and 4 animate for the wrong engine. Starting engine 4 animates engine 3, and vice versa. Captain CDU does not power on with standby power switch on auto state. Turning battery on does not properly power the electric buses. On indication missing or too faint to see on various overhead panel button switches, especially external power. Missing exterior interactions. The 787 Dreamliner added realistic spool-up times when setting takeoff thrust. Adjusted hydraulic system to 2024 hydraulic system for improved non-normal operations. Systems now control individual actuators as would be expected. And higher quality wear and tear simulations. Removed engine and pitot covers for pre-flight walk-around. Added aircraft configuration to flight performance files. Fixed an issue where the active comm frequency was not appropriately set when spawning into a flight on the runway. Added engine vortex ground effects. That's going to be neat to see. Especially in like snow, fog, or heavy rain. Or especially around here for snow. Fixed avionics not loading. Fixed rudder not moving linearly. Fixed autopilot disconnect bar animation. Fixed inverted emergency light switch. The altitude selector now stops when the selected barometer minima when in the auto position. Correct turn radius on ND for approach and missed approach. Correct turn radius on ND for approach and missed approach legs. Fixed an issue where an inactive route had to be executed twice and some data was lost. Added automatic loading of airport transition altitude and level. Takeoff pre-pressurization only happens if the engines are running and bleed air is available now. Now targeting 0.1 PSID cabin pressure differential during takeoff. Fixed excessive turn radius for approach and missed approach legs. Added LDG alt flag on PFD and improved landing altitude logic. Fixed ident page navigation database dates. CLB1 and CLB2 D-rate modes now relevant to CLB when the D-rate fades out at high altitude. Fixed VNAV path overshoot at TD when descent speed is equal to or slightly lower than the cruise speed. So similar ones between different aircraft here. Fixed inverted tooltip values on emergency light switches. Fixed rough autopilot altitude capturing. Disabled FD door access knob since no animation currently exists for it. Fixed inverted mouse scroll wheels, interaction on emergency light switch. Fixed EFB performance data, distance calculations. Fixed interior of cargo doors not being animated. Fixed rudder pedals not animating correctly. Fixed the in-sim checklist to include everything in the CDU checklists. The Boeing C-17 Globemaster 3 by Miltech. Contrast and weathering on all liveries improved throughout. Main landing gear sinking on the ground on heavy loads. Added additional weathering to cockpit textures. Rivets white outline when viewed from afar. Improved engine cowling texture. Primer livery registration incorrect. Ground spoiler arm knob. Corrected the tooltips. Increased resolution on the tablet EFB textures. Maximum fuel loads in pounds displaying incorrectly due to wrong fuel type on flight model. When spawning on the runway, stabilizer trim is configured for takeoff. Air traffic control designation fixed. Incorrect naming order in aircraft resolved. Manufacturer name missing. SKE tooltips corrected. Issue on the engine geometry. Other minor tooltip edits. Air traffic control call signs overwritten for some liveries. Stabilizer trim alarm adjusted. RABA was inverted on the HUDs. Course variables completely disconnected from Vario's navigation display screens. ETA to destination at low speeds calculation improved. Transponder on ND now displays correct mode. Overspeed alarm triggering at 250 knots under 8,000 feet. Yaw damper not engaging with autopilot when using keybinds, hardware binds. Aircraft nose disappearing on walk-around mode. Various level of detail issues. Engine blast effects detached, fixed. And that's it. Detached, fixed. Fixed what? Multi-language localizer translations added. Added documentation page to EFB which links direct to the aircraft manual. Walk-around items improved. Engine covers can now be removed from walk-around. Added tire pressure checks. Added pre-flight walk-around to checklist. Added conditions for a successful engine start added. Engines will fail to start if PRI or primary secondary hydraulic pumps are on. Fail to start if APU bleed is off. APU can be started without fuel pumps. Gravity feed. But will be fuel deprived after 2 minutes if boost pumps are off. Engine ignition will auto switch off when N2 greater than 52%. Added APU to allow feeding from fuel manifold. Fuel transfer among tanks is now possible using the fill and transfer valves pumps. Engine crossfeed is now possible. Crossfeeding, it says note, crossfeeding and fuel transfer is not possible at the same time. Fuel dump is now possible. Cargo bay flag temporarily disabled, being moved and reanimated. The Boeing CH-47D, the Chinook. Blackbird fixed the Boeing. Fixes various tooltips on circuit breaker panel, IACS panel, and fuel panel. Fixed animation on radar altimeter, high limit knobs. Fixed highlight for external interactions. Fixed pins for external actions. Adjust checklist for external pre-flight. Changed interaction direction for wiper knob. Changed tooltips for starter selector switch. Move cockpit windows to external mode to fix reflections. Adjusted bottom position of external ramp. Added engine and inlet covers. Fixed auto shutdown scripted behavior. Fixed fuel quantity total display. Added text localizations. The FA-18E. Improved some tooltips. Added fuel probe extension cockpit. Controls removed. Exterior pre-flight interactions. Fixed position and formation light not working on cruise departure. Remove some leftover circuits, slightly extending battery lifetime without generating supporting it. The generator supporting it. Improved low altitude water FF. Get it together, Kinneas. Improved low altitude water effects, visual with vortice effect. So again, that's going to be neat. Flying low over bodies of water might create the vortex effect. You're going to have to check that. Fixed an issue with right gear pin interaction collision box. Added new vapor cone FX. Improved the interaction and tooltips on the air-to-air weapon selection and sensor control. Increased the fly-by-wire high-speed roll rate scaler to fixed roll rate at Mach 0.9, 550 knots. Increased some pre-flight interaction volumes. Fixed an issue that could cause the F-18's engine not to restart properly after back on track in one of the training. Added bleed air knob position indicator. Fixed wing light orb floating when wings are stowed. Fixed missing part in front landing gear. The Aerobat, though, Cessna 152 Aerobat. We found out recently in a poll that this is the most popular aircraft. I think it was just for new people. I don't know if it was just for new people or in general, but the Cessna 152 came out on top. I kind of get it, especially if you're a newer player. You know, you want that extra stability in the airframe in case you make mistakes, maybe. Ferry flight, the F plan, flight seeing, tour plan, and aerial advertising ad plan, missing chalk equals 1 in flight file. Debug text present in checklist. Look at arrow points toward unknown object during starting engine portion of pre-flight. ADF frequency cannot be set. Rear position light projection is not aligned with light bulb on plane's rudder. Takeoff landing distance does not generate NEFB. Pilot navigation graph positions, passenger navigation graph RTC positions, ground handling flight model, door entry exit logic for career mode compatibility. The Skyhawk. Fix the adaptive liveries. Fix the livery flight seeing adaptive 05. Improve the livery availability per variations. Fixed from animation. Adjusted flight potentiometer values to improve night spawn visibility. Added missing text entries for the EFB for the skydiving variation. You're either in the 152 or the 172. I was for the first year and a half, for sure. In the 172, it's my favorite. The Skyhawk added runway dirt. Oh, this is the Sky Sock. Sky Sock. That's the name of our baseball team. The Sky Sox. The Skyhawk G1000 added runway dirt. Fixed rain direction and scale on all exterior. Nice. Fixed floats variation gear lights turned on in cold and dark departure. Improved interior rain tiling. Fixed camera bug and checklist. Engine startup page. Added leaks dirt. Don't know what that means, but cool. Fixed AO for floats variation. Fixed tour and skydive liveries adaptivity. Fixed company names and baselines for all cargo liveries. Improved variant thumbnails. Changed altimeter instruments in all variations. Fixed the engine friction to correct the propeller behavior when stopping the engine, even in case of flight engine failure. Fixed behavior of lighting knobs on the C-72 G1000, which in VR use both horizontal movement and rotation to increment and decrement, while other knobs only consider rotation. Fixed visual on flight seeing 07 and 04 liveries. Improved adaptivity of all liveries. Fixed floats front wheel suspension animation. Fixed visual issue on rudder for livery cargo 05. Adjusted two-toe lines position and default cockpit camera. The Cessna 188 AG truck. Coronado fixed Cessna 188 AG truck with version 107. The aircraft is missing agricultural features that are required for career mode. Stick cannot be grabbed by VR controllers. minor discrepancy with manual in before takeoff checklist. Turn coordinator lags after initial input is made by pilot. Is not available for purchase in career mode, new or used. That's one thing I was expecting for this sim update too. Somebody said you would be able to play or fly or buy all the planes in career mode. I don't know if they were pulling our legs. I'm going to find out later. Maybe it's going to be coming up at a different point, and maybe they didn't mean SU2. But I really want some of the other planes that we have purchased or have available. I would like to be able to use them in career mode. I really want to be able to use my Skyvan. That's what I bought the thing for. I anticipated with career mode, I would want something bigger than the Caravan. So I bought the Skyvan specifically for career mode, and so far can't use it. Okay, speaking of the Grand Caravan. Fixed inverted light knob for pilot and co-pilot. Fixed an issue causing the 208Bs, the G1000, to be affected by standby altimeter barometer setting. Added new cabin for scientific observation variation. Nice. Added new observation device 04 and sim attachment. Improved observation device 01 visual. Improved wing texture for latest LODs. Level of details. Fixed light bulb on the floodlights to glow when turned on. Fixed the autopilot to better track roll and pitch. That's nice. You turn the autopilot on and the thing just is like whips you around, and you've got cargo on board. There's no bank limiter. The bank limiter button doesn't seem to work. Things all over the place. Added parts to airframe for scientific observation variation. Improved normal maps visuals on airframe. Added seatbelt in the cabin for passenger variation. Fixed dirt issue. Don't know what that is. Fixed visual issue on medic ventilator sim attachment. Fixed nav lights, which were not functional. Improved variations thumbnails. Fixed color scheme on cargo and medevac livery. Adjusted autopilot PIDs to fix Dutch roll motion when on autopilot. Improved the float's landing gear visual, reworked more accurately. Removed duplicated, remove before flight ribbons. Added detail map on cockpit. Added a G1000 version without heading knob. Improved visual of the airframe textures. Fixed holes in the windshield frame geometry. Improved seatbelt position with pilot and co-pilot. Improved panel screws visual. Fixed front landing gear visual issue. Improved airframe visual on the latest level of details. Fixed interaction for skydive door control and indicator lights. Fixed virtual reality interaction on cockpit panels. Fixed virtual reality yoke handling. Added thermal camera to scientific variation. Wow. Improved thermal camera visual sim attachment. Fixed pre-flight engine flame placement. Added new parts for the floats variation. Added, and that's for tail, exhaust, rear door, stair. And the Cessna 400 Corvallis TT. Missing career, tour plan, fur plan added. Props do not change angles when feathering. Level of detail popping on Cessna C400 Corvallis TT instrument panel. Pitot heat does not accelerate de-icing of pitot tube. We had our pitot tube freeze the other night flying in Alaska. Unable to naturally pick up icing. Takeoff and landing performance does not load properly. No mention of increasing throttle before doing a magneto check and checklist. Shutdown checklist missing checks. Before takeoff checklist missing checks. Missing after start checklist. Missing hot engine start checklist. Passengers can be seen walking next to the aircraft while completing the VIP private charter. I've got a whole live stream of that happening. I did the VIP private charter, and yeah, the passengers on the tip of the wing just walking in place. Nothing you can do about it. Some dials on the G1000 are missing audio. Aircraft has difficulty accelerating beyond white arc. Z fighting on the battery switches. Spawning the plane in a dense area like KJFK or EGLL causes title to crash Xbox with Lockhart profiling. Missing takeoff checklists. Aircraft can exceed service ceiling. The Cessna 404 Titan. The engine sound effects intensity does not change when cockpit's door is opened. A few interactive objects lack sound effects. Sun visor and passengers' doors lack sound effects. Some interactive objects lack sound effects. Medical transport variant, passengers are not properly seated or positioned. Opening windows does not affect audio from outside the aircraft. Heat blur is unnatural. Garmin's volume knobs are mislabeled on the model. Circuit breakers and gyroscope arrests do not have tooltips. Rheostats are mistyped as rheostats. The H. Release the parking brake is not mentioned in the checklist. Leading edges of horizontal stabilizer do not de-ice. ADF and radio knobs are mislabeled on the model. Altimeter level of detail. Altimeter reads 0 at beyond a specific zoom. Level of detail. Rain streaks behave unnaturally. Out of place white texture present on tail number on some liveries. Aircraft disappears at a certain distance. Elevator trim animation is reversed. Aircraft has no water wake effect. Identify system is behaving unnaturally. Virtual reality incompatible controllers message when switching display to VR headset. Medical transport character model rigs render at level of detail 2 while viewing them in the cockpit camera. Brakes still work at lowest possible wear and tear value. Right fuel gauge shows no fuel burn after 10 minutes at full throttle. Service ceiling is too low for both configurations. Cessna 408 Sky Courier. Update WT G1000 V2. Aircraft has no water wake effect. Exhaust heat effect can be spawned inside the aircraft. Cameras does not pan to some interactables when using the visual helper in the checklist. VS works in reverse direction as labeled. Aural warning test engages when spawning cold and dark. Yoke tooltip is missing. Sun visor tooltip is misplaced. Some interactables have incorrect inputs. Overspeed warning test functions when cold and dark. Heat blur effect looks unnatural. Rain effect on the windshield acts unnaturally while aircraft is moving. Aircraft disappears a certain distance. FMS keyboard level of detail. Landing gear wheels do not spin. Few level of detail issues inside cockpit. Unable to start engines manually with checklist manual completion. Before start checklist incorrect steps. Before start checklist battery step issue. Radios don't tune to proper digits. Transponder input is doubled from PFD soft keys and completely unresponsive on FMS. Jorge Serna. Sorry, it's very small. Jorge says something in Spanish I can't read, and then he's got 3 angry smiley faces. Oh man, Jorge, I don't know Spanish. Con la última actualización si puedo viendo como el 2020. I don't know what that means. I have to put it in a translator. Takeoff and landing performance tools in-op on EFB. Several dashboard interactables do not have sound effects. Player avatar is seated too deep into the backrest. Nav frequency, megahertz knob, is not animated. Cessna 408 EFB flight plan not transferring to the G1000. Cold and dark start using checklist does not work. Cessna C408 condition levers unbindable. Autopilot vertical speed mode does not maintain a select climb or descent rate. Virtual reality controllers are not fully supported. The citation CJ4 added electronic checklists. Reduced aircraft instability when skipping phases and missions. Fixed cabin pressure limits being exceeded at high altitudes. Fixed left engine anti-ice sound missing. Fixed an issue where the active comm frequency was not appropriately set when spawning into a flight on the runway. Added nav radio identification Morse code when nav volume is more than 0%. Nice. Added interaction box and pre-flight point to nose cargo doors. Fixed pitot heat off and emergency lights off cast message, displaying when spawning in the air. Fixed FMC bright dim switch not working correctly. Fixed right engine fire warning light cover not working. Fixed all lights on checklist bug by removing this section as it was an incorrect checklist item to begin with. Fixed various buttons. all inoperative, reversion, engine dis, battery, end knobs, barometer pressure, missing sounds. Fixed pre-flight pitot cover interaction box. Fixed pre-flight check flaps and main gear interaction boxes. Fixed EFB nose baggage load position. Fixed covers not being removed when skipping mission steps. Fixed contrails appearing far larger than they should. Fixed mission passenger start points for boarding cinematic. The Cessna citation longitude. Added additional EFB checklists. Added an additional instrument camera preset, instrument 11, that gives a view of all avionics screens except the co-pilot outboard GTC. Adjusted some instrument camera presets. The toggle all aircraft doors, toggle aircraft exit fast, and toggle aircraft exit key events now work properly for all doors. Fixed an issue where the baggage door would remain open after playing the passenger boarding cinematic and career missions. Fixed the display of CAS messages on the PFD. Fixed an issue where sometimes the parking brakes lever could not be moved. Fixed an issue where the PTCU could sometimes provide hydraulic power to a system using the hydraulic pumps without an electrical power source or cross-system hydraulic pressure. Disabled the emergency exits. The CGS Hawk Arrow 2. My gosh, how many more playing? Well, never mind, just keep going. 1 second here. It is 26 minutes after the hour. Reading so much I can't smoke a cigarette. Aircraft is too resistant to collision damage. Checklist parking brake releases added before takeoff. Engine art was not securely mounted. V&E crash trigger lowered. Oil cools down too fast. Aircraft uses only left tank. Switching off battery cut avionics. And then it just says VR controllers. The Cirrus Aircraft SR-22. Fixed auto shutdown feature. Fixed ELT switch animation being reversed. Added prop wash ground effects. Nice. Added additional items to exterior checklists and improved checklist level of detail. Fixed the approach mode, autopilot button tooltips. Added remaining exterior checklists. Fixed performance data calculations in the EFB. The Cirrus Vision SF-50, the Vision Jet. The FMS GPS navigation source is now displayed as GPS in the UI, and the associated lateral flight director mode is enunciated as GPS in the AFCS status box. Fixed mission passenger start points for boarding cinematic. Fixed an issue where the landing field elevation for the cabin pressurization system was sometimes calculated incorrectly. Fixed an issue where the landing light toggle key event was not toggling the landing light switch. Fixed fuel pump on, CAS. Message now appears in an advisory white when the engine run stop knob is selected to run and before the engine start sequence is initiated. The fuel pressure low, CAS message no longer appears when the engine is not running. Enabled support for heading sync mode. Interactions with the checklist scroll wheel using the mouse wheel are no longer reversed. Checklist scroll wheel now needs to be pushed and held for 1 second to toggle the checklist pane. Pushing and holding the wheel while the checklist pane is visible will now close the checklist pane and return to the previously selected pane. Fixed various cases of CAS messages incorrectly triggering a master caution or master warning. Set instrument lighting to 100% on cold and dark starts. Change the data shown on the left side of the PFD bottom information panel to match the real airplane. Added missing localization for tooltips and checklist items. The door open main and door open baggage CAS warning messages now appear in place of the door open advisory message when the engine is running and the aircraft is on the ground. Increase the brightness of the strobe anti-collision and navigation lights. Fix the logic of the pulse wigwag light feature so that pulse lighting is enabled when both the landing light switch and strobe light are selected on and the airplane is above 500 feet above ground level. Fixed an issue where the active comm frequency was not appropriately set when spawning into a flight on the runway. Chocks and covers are now visible by default when viewing the airplane in the hangar. Added IPS stall offset logic. When wing stabilizer IPS is selected on, the stall warning and protection system will now calculate higher stall speeds. Once wing stabilizer IPS is turned off, stall speed calculations can be reset by using the IPS stall offset reset button in the GTC aircraft system page. Fixed the toggle master battery key binding. Fixed an issue where the set AP current heading key event could be used to manipulate the heading bug while the safe return was active. Improved registration number styling to better match real-world liveries. Fix an issue where the output tension of the starter generator and alternator could rise to improperly high values while the engine was spooling up rapidly. Adjusted the logic of the takeoff emergency battery cast message to reduce the frequency of nuisance alerts. Reduce the weather vaning effect at high crosswinds during takeoff. Adjusted the logic of flap airspeed inhibits to prevent flap retraction in the air when airspeed is too low. The flaps ice and stall speed high cast messages can now be cleared using the IPS stall offset reset button in the GTC aircraft systems page. Added appropriate CAS and EIS indicators for when the flap system is inoperative. Adjusted the airspeed threshold at which throttled EPS engages to reduce the likelihood of inadvertent engagement when flying at or just above VREF in landing configuration. Increased flap extension time. Flaps now take roughly 10 seconds to move between each stage. Adjusted the position of the PFD cast display so that it's not occluded by the bearing pointer 2 box when the PFD is in split mode. Fixed an issue where landing distance calculated by the EFB was too high in most cases. Gear touchdown sounds no longer play when the airplane lands without the gear extended. Cub Crafters NX Cub. Landing lights are inoperative. No nav and strobe lights are not bright enough. Checklist suggests contacting air traffic control for clearance before turning on the battery. Flaps do not suffer malfunctions when used at VNE. Parking brake cannot be deactivated with the VR goggles controller. Checklist suggests that aircraft has 2 engines. It's not possible to check the condition of brakes. The player starts with his back to the plane. Parking brake are not set in taxi flight, the FLT. Navigation graph is incorrectly set. Passenger outside the aircraft. Trim at -100, max up after back on track. Wow. That would suck. Elevator interaction volume badly placed. Cannot interact when on the left side of the elevator. Cub Crafters X Cub. Fix an issue that caused the dim bright switch of the X Club floats variation to be inverted. Fixed an issue on the floaters version of the X Cub causing the landing gear indicator lights to behave incorrectly. Fixed the position of the red and green navigation lights. Fixed wing strobe emissive mesh lights color. Fixed elevator collision not following animation. Improved cockpit rain tiling. Fixed missing left brake and wear and tear systems. Fixed landing lights in pulse mode. Added a new configuration parameter, tailwheel algo detection, which can be used to let the sim use the new tailwheel direction algorithm already used in the mission constraints to affect the sim. Applied to the X-Cub. Added laser systems under wing floats. I was just impressed they added laser systems. I'm like, can you shoot things? No. Added laser system under wing for floats variations. Fixed frost. Fixed cockpit holes. Fixed liveries issues on Sightseeing 06, aerial ad freelance, and rescue freelance. Fixed the engine that stop at high altitude airport. Fixed the max RPM reached at full throttle for takeoff. Disabled chocks for the ski variant. The Curtiss JN4 Jenny. Several interactable gauges are missing Foley sounds within the cockpit. Virtual reality controllers cannot interact with the center flight stick while in virtual reality mode. The DAR TBM 930. The FMS GPS navigation source is now displayed as GPS in the UI, and the associated lateral flight director mode is enunciated as GPS in the AFCS status box. Fixed mission passenger start points for boarding cinematic. Fixed an issue where the open-close animation for the cabin and pilot doors could sometimes stutter. Made the engine heat blur FX smaller. Added prop wash ground FX. Fixed an issue where the fuel mixture could be inappropriately set by the user. Fixed an issue where landing field elevation for the cabin pressurization system was sometimes calculated incorrectly. Fixed an issue where the AP autopilot trim switch would disable the rudder and aileron trim. Added missing non-English localization. Fixed an issue where the active comm frequency was not appropriately set when spawning into a flight in the runway. Chocks and covers are now visible by default when viewing the airplane in the hangar. Added EFB takeoff for landing performance data. Fixed one of the decals overlapping the registration number when using livery 01. Remove some invisible collision behind the left wing that was preventing players from entering the space during walk-around. The toggle all aircraft doors, the toggle aircraft exit fast, and toggle aircraft exit key events now work properly for all doors. Fixed an issue where the baggage door would remain open after playing the passenger boarding cinematic and career missions. Added missing engine exhaust heat blur effect. The de Havilland Canada CL415. Fixed aircraft CL415 is not correctly placed inside the hangar in Firefighting Extended. Fixed CL415 glide slopes indicators that were inverted, and ADF2 that was not showing on the compass. Fixed fuse glass door always open by default. Fixed the range value in the aircraft selection screen. Fixed propeller cone doesn't cast shadow. Fixed art issues on livery freelance adaptive. Fixed art issues on 3D model. Added dirt and frost. Fixed glass rendering issues on the landing gear level and fuse panel door into the cabin. Removed legal issue on decals texture. The only one that I've been looking for in this category is here that they fixed the brakes. I doubt it. Mesh adjustments for icing textures to prevent flickering and Z-fighting. Resizing of drone collision mesh to prevent interior camera clipping with the fuselage in a few locations. Added pre-flight interactions and pins. Checklist additions for some external elements. Fixed to trim indication animations. Fixed to glass draw order to prevent flickering. Added landing gear failure inhibit. And nothing about easing up on those brakes. Renamed fin tank for ballast box. This is the DG Aviation DG101E. The DG101's tail ballast not updating visually. Fixed an issue that caused the breakers to behave as single state push buttons. Fixed an issue causing the DG1001's altimeter strip to be slightly off. Improved water drop FX visuals at high and low speeds. Fixed the air brake control not also enabling ground brakes. Fixed behavior of trim release trigger. Fixed audio volume knob tooltip. Fixed fire warning test switch. Fixed the engine and propeller max RPM and power to match real aircraft data. Fixed an issue that caused the toggle water ballast shortcut not to close the water ballast if they're open. Increased elevator trim efficiency to allow approach speed trim. Nice. Fixed some tooltips. Fixed level of detail issues on the canopy, windows, and speed brakes. Fixed canopy glass level of detail issues. The Diamond DA62. Fixed missing emissive mesh on the floodlights. Improvement of the visual for the camera director's cut sim attachment. Fixed missing texture on scientific variations. Fixed visual and animation issues on pedals. Changed the EFB position. Nice. Changed EFB position. Choose improved tiling fabric textures. Added passenger seat belts. Added alternate static model tap. Added vent model on pilot windows. Tune the pitch PID to better track the glide slope during ILS approaches. Fixed latest level of detail on livery official static 01. Fixed yoke co-pilot button animation. Fixed button light still on when the battery's off. Turn engine friction and efficiency to fix the propeller behavior when the engine is stopped. Fixed position of taxi and landing lights. Added new sun visors model animated in cockpit. Added new screws on glare shield and ceiling. Fixed seatbelt positions. Added loads and trunks. Cleaned source file for SDK sample. Fixed color interior for passengers and scientific variation. Fixed bug UV and interior. Seatbelt seat. Improved level of detail switch by adding new ones. Improved interior details maps. Improved interior detail map. Seat, ceiling, Alcantara, leather. Added new detail map of leather hole. Improved 3D model visual for all interiors. Improved visual of livery official static 01. Fixed propeller feathering on all level of details. Improved airframe level of detail transitions. Added new screws visual on airframe. Fixed thumbnail. Fixed fueling nozzle position. Pipe position on ground. Truck position. Fixed fuel cap position on wings. The Diamond DV20. Any builds fixed the Diamond DV20. Engine cover missing interaction. Prop lever not adjusting. Exterior prop animation. Low volts light always stays on after restarting the battery. Aircraft has no thumbnail. Aircraft does not produce a water wake effect. Front wheel does not spin while rolling on a runway. Some level of detail issues. Engine exhaust heat is not implemented. Takeoff landing performance data does not populate EFB. Navigation graph issues. The Dornier Sea Star by ATS Simulations. Cruise flight, fuel low, fuel flow value fixed. Fuselage shape aerodynamics provided. Engine dynamics updated relevant to previous point change. Removed before flight flags. Changed into more realistic cruise flight. Cruise flight pitch angle fixed. Exterior collision mesh fixed. Windshield wiper raindrops. Clearing texture added. Windshield frost updated. Raindrop effects added for fuselage textures. Level of detail glass texture fixed. Level of detail passenger nodes added. Other players Sea Star float in multiplayer. Auto shutdown does not kill the engines. App lowers 1 and 2 circuit breakers are stuck on off. DIDSW decal texture misfixed. Door behavior updated. GPU behavior added. Now it's possible to call for a GPU that will be visually connected and possible to use. Copilot and pilot's belts fixed. Belts locks added. Sound package updated. Standby fuel pumps behavior updated. Blue livery fuselage albedo textures resolution doubled. Pilots and passenger positions corrected. Sun visor visual corrected a bit. ECS tuned. Passengers are not properly seated. Propeller's RPM value cannot be changed below 87.5% by using the intended button on a controller. Loud compressor propeller sound is briefly heard before engine is fully started after igniting the either engine. Hydraulic audio ends before landing gear is fully retracted after retracting landing gear in the simulator. Fuel pump audio does not play when turned on for cockpit and external views. A lot of buttons and switches do not have audio while pressing. Engine audio exceeds loudness threshold standards when at full throttle on ground, while in cockpit external camera views. EFB landing and takeoff distance calculations are incorrect. Opening the cockpit doors does not affect the volume of the multiplayer audio. Low resolution textures on third livery. Opening door does not exit the cockpit. Pilot is sitting flipped into the back of their seat. EFB is able to be clicked through, which causes EFB to disappear. One moment. Let me look at how many more to go. Draco. Cabri. The hot air balloon. The Pilatus. Pipstrel. The Robinson. Because they've been doing a lot of the third-party planes. I'm going to be reading for days. I think I might just stop there. There's a plane you want to find. It's there. So just a few more to go. If there's a plane I missed, I'm sorry, check the list. Let's move on. Aircraft core systems. Quick access window upgrades. Added a power setting column in the circuit section. Moved expletive text in a button in the menu bar. Improved columns readability when graying out some values when they're at 0. Replaced huge values in diodes voltages. Tooltip in the lines tab with inf. Added new parameters for AC suppliers. Tension drop RPM. Giving this parameter will change the way AC suppliers produce voltage. Above the given value, VRMS will be used as outputted tension. Under the given value, the output attention will be linearly decreased from VRMS to 0. Also, if this parameter is given, the system will ignore others based on frequency, such as frequency, phase, reference frequency, reference RPM, number of poles. Fixed an issue that causes the panel light and the landing light to be linked on aircraft that are using the non-modular electrical system. Fixed line state button and relays quick access window not working in some cases. Debug window fixes and quality of life improvements. Fixed crash when opening list of powered consumers in a supplier details panel. Circuits and relays are now displayed in separate lists. Allow item selection across all columns and quick access lists. Added new columns, tension, power, number of suppliers to relays quick access information. Added circuit type filter and circuits quick access debug window. Made columns and lines and breakers, debug window tabs hideable. Fixed supplier load sharing issues, blinking displays in some aircrafts overhead. Added some informations in the debug quick access window. Average load, average tension, and power for suppliers. Tension, power, and number of suppliers for the circuits. Power for the buses. The debug window can now be opened without needing the behavior's debug window to be opened as well. Fixed external power not outputting any tension when of AC type. Fixed load sharing issues with batteries. Improved electrical system debug window with better button displays in the quick access panel. Added informations in the connectables detail, right part of the main panel. Lists of suppliers powering a consumer or a list of consumers powered by a supplier are now available via a new menu. Failure, wear, and tear. Fixed brakes efficiency on general aviation when brakes are weak? No! Now they're going to make the brakes even stronger? Right now, I'm not using foot pedals, I'm just using the brakes button. Every time I'm in a tail dragger and I press the button, I could be going under taxi speeds, slower than walking speeds, and I'll press the brakes and those tail draggers are flipped right over, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm hoping it's fixed. Fixed an issue that allowed the inhibit wear and tear section to inhibit the general wear and tear. All other elements can still be inhibited. The fuel system fixed issues causing lines after junctions to ignore fuel flow settings. Glass cockpits. The M803 added possibility to reference voltage values in the panel XML configuration. Improved screen luminosity. Made the backlight parameter from panel config support 2 as a value, which when enabled allows the emissives value to be dynamically modified, i.e. by some XML logic. Fixed on sound and parentheses bass instrument callback being called on sound start. Fixed checklist highlights alignment for V-cockpit with placement offset. Fixed screens not able to be externalized for instruments. GNS 430, the 530, the ADF 87, Autopilot 140, transponder AS76C. The G1000 NXI. Fixed range plus minus inversion. Screen backlight setting now default to auto at the start of a flight. When receiving a flight plan from the EFB, RNP, AR approaches are no longer loaded. Updated screen backlight auto, adjustment to use ambient light. Fixed syncing of airway segments in the flight plan to the EFB. Fixed an issue where elevation for some airports were not displayed accurately. Fixed an issue where region text for some airports was not displayed accurately. The G1000. Fixed missing outer nav knob animation. Fixed audio panel LED disappearing too quickly with the distance. Fixed issue with G1000 having a circle instead of a plane icon on the MFD map. Improved texture visuals on loads MPA for audio panel. The Garmin G3000, G5000. When receiving a flight plan from the EFB, RNP, AR approaches are no longer loaded if the airplane is not configured to support such approaches. Fixed syncing of airway segments in the flight plan to the EFB. Fixed an issue where long procedure name text in the GTC procedures page could sometimes wrap and overflow its containing button. Fixed HSI indications where LNAV is tracking a heading leg. Fixed an issue where very long flight plans were not displayed correctly in the GTC flight plan page. Fixed the color of the PFD cast display's background while a message is flashing. Slightly reduced the size of the text in the PFD cast display. Fixed an issue where elevation for some airports was not correctly displayed accurately. Fixed an issue where region text for some airports were not displayed accurately. Set autopilot current heading key event now interacts properly with the Garmin autopilot's heading sync function. Loading procedures into the flight plan will now pull the correct type. AT or above, AT or below, of speed restrictions from the published procedure in all cases. Added support for electronic charts. By default, LIDO and FAA charts are supported. Added the barometric transition alert function. The Garmin G3X Touch. Improved performance when making large edits to the internal flight plan when multiple GDUs are present in an airplane. The PDF options menu will now display external GPS CDI sources as GPS 1 and GPS 2 when there is more than one external GPS source. Adjusted the styling of the PFD Navcom radio volume shortcut pop-up and the MFD radio volume pop-up to more closely match the real unit. Fixed an issue where the volume indications in the CNS Navcom radio buttons did not correctly display 0% volume. Added appropriate failure indications for COM and NAV radios. By default, the G3X will now use the fuel density reported by the fuel weight per gallon SIMVAR when converting between fuel volume and fuel weight. Fixed the display of the EGT readout in the EIS to show the correct value. Fixed HSI indications when LNAV is tracking the heading leg. Fixed an issue where very long flight plans were sometimes not displayed correctly in the MFD's flight plan page and PFD active flight plan inset. When sending a flight plan route from the IPI to the G3X, waypoints that are part of the airways are now properly loaded into the G3X flight plan. Fixed an issue where elevation for some airports were not displayed accurately. Fixed an issue where region text for some airports were not displayed accurately. Added support for electronic charts. By default, LIDO and FAA charts are supported. The GNS 430, GNS 530 modified range button interaction to split zoom in and out. When receiving a flight plan from the IPI, RNAV, AR approaches are no longer loaded. Fixed an issue where region text for some airports was not displayed accurately. The GTN 650 added transponder controls. Added compatibility with the IPI send route to and request route from avionics functions. LX9070. Fixed LX9070 glass cockpit broken UI when flying the DG1001. Primus Epic 2.0 integrated avionics system. It's a new one for me. Improved performance when making large edits to the flight plan. Added support for GPWS alerting. Fixed the PFD decluttering at 20 degrees pitch up and 30 degrees pitch down. Now reversed this to declutter at 30 degrees pitch down up and 20 degrees pitch down. SID and star selection buttons will now also enable if the pending flight plan has a selected origin destination. Origin/destination. Correct turn radius on ND for approach and missed approach legs. Added vertical situation display with full display of VNAV path for descents, including top of descent, top of C marker. What is top of C? TOC markers, and including terrain profile display. ProLine 21 integrated avionics systems. Improved performance when making large edits to the flight plan. Added support for electronic checklists. Fixed issue where flight plan would desync between the left and right FMSCs and MFDs. Fixed issue where sending flight plan to avionics from EFB would duplicate legs. Fixed excessive turn radius for approach and missed approach legs. The UNS 1EW SBS flight management system. New to me. Correct turn radius on ND for approach and missed approach legs. Physics. Refined many physical constants and unit conversions used in simulation. Atmosphere. Refined calculations of all physical parameters for both actual and standard atmosphere. I say atmosphere. Fixed humid air density calculation was practically no different from dry air. Fixed front friction formula of water to account for local relative speed. Improvements of thermals and turbulence systems. Fixed a bug in turbulence system that was generating aggressive turbulences. Fixed several aerodynamics backwards compatibility issues with drag. Flight systems and flight planning. Now this is stuff where it's really getting into a lot of code, right? Add support for optional parameters in the flight performance config file. Nav data. Improved handling of nav data for runways that do not exist in the sim. The resolution is now only done after all scenery layers are loaded, and only transitions will be removed rather than full procedures were possible. Aircraft engines, piston engines. Fixed an issue that prevented props, piston-based aircraft from auto-feathering, despite setting the required config params. EFB. Fixed the maximum mass of cargo loads in the aircraft app mass and balance menu so that it matches the configured value. Added the possibility to add or remove the co-pilot in the aircraft app mass and balance menu. Fixed the collision side of the hide button on the EFB tablet. Added a horizontal layout for the EFB homepage when it is in landscape mode. Fixed the empty mass that was not showed in the mass and balance empty tab of the aircraft app when the player is in career. Fixed an issue that caused liquid tank settings from the EFB set on the world map to be ignored when starting a free flight. Added a new battery displayed in the electrical tab for the aircraft app mass and balance menu. Fixed the pilot book hours displays overflow when reaching 24 hours. Added the aircraft size category, small, medium, and large, retrieved either via the aircraft JS listener or the aircraft XML config to the mass and balance menu of the aircraft app. Fix the fuel liquid tanks mass synchronization with the tab, quick fill and total mass in the aircraft app mass and balance menu. Fix the format of the distributed load quantities in career mode in the aircraft app mass and balance menu. Fix the style sheet of the alerts displayed when the configuration cannot be loaded in the aircraft app mass and balance menu. Combined import-export actions to a drop-down menu at the top. Improve the waypoint missions lock behavior, allowing added waypoints before or after locked waypoints if the neighboring waypoint is not locked. Add a button for each route section that allows to collapse it and show a compact summary. Added airway names in the en route waypoint list. Added departure and arrival procedure selection to auto routing. Added more data to the waypoint list items. A list of waypoints are displayed in the procedure sections. Fix the issue where the faculty submenu close button in nav bar would appear without faculty submenu. Changing the departure or arrival runway will now keep a previously selected departure or arrival if it is compatible with the new runway. Added a new feature to enter or edit a route string to import a route. Added a split view that allows the user to see the route page and the map at the same time. When the faculty submenu close button is clicked, all facility. When the facility submenu close button is clicked, all facility related menu pages are closed. METAR and TAF data update every 5 minutes when facility info page is open. Added a recenter button that resets zoom and position of a chart. Fix the optional checkpoint tags style sheet in the aircraft app checklists. Fix the no notification message style sheet. Added an aircraft information page in the aircraft app. Fixed wrong headwind calculation in the aircraft app flight performance page. Add the possibility to close the EFB panel on hover like any other panel with the appropriate input shortcut. Added a scroll on hover of any too long load item title in the aircraft app mass and balance menu. Added an information message when no checkpoints, given a level of details, are available within a checklist in the aircraft app. Fixed usage of EFB tag in panel config when it was not a sim attachment. Fixed issue where aircraft performance profiles could become stuck or stale when changing airplanes. Fixed an issue where the weather page would not show the weather data on the first load. Fixed an issue where the cruise speed was not always showing round numbers, and increased input field size to prevent numbers being clipped. Fixed issue where the map would recenter when clicking on coordinates that do not correspond to a facility. The weather page now shows the nearest available METAR and TAF data if the selected facility does not have any data. That's great. Pressing the enter key in the route string dialog will now save changes instead of adding a line break when the save button is enabled. Added buttons to the en route section that open the route string dialog. Removed add waypoint button from the collapsed en route section summary. Adjusted spacing and button sizes of the page layout. Remove the disabled profile view button from the map toolbar to declutter the interface. The app will now prioritize the facilities from the flight plan to be displayed on the map. The charts provider toggle is now only visible for regions where the FAA charts are available. Added a refresh button to the weather page to manually update the weather data besides the 5-minute automatic update interval. Added runway entries to waypoint lists. Added a recenter on current route button to the map toolbar. Extra fuel and payload now affect performance calculations. Fixed issue when using aircraft profiles and trip fuel not always being recalculated. Fix the cruise altitude and speed inputs having no effect on performance calculations. Move the VFR pattern option to the top of the procedures list for better visibility. Optimize chart data fetching. Reducing unnecessary data loads. Add a warning to the cruise altitude section of the selected cruise altitude cannot be reached. Added automatic cruise altitude calculation based on the selected aircraft and the given route. Added a loading spinner and a no charts available message to the chart list page. Moved flight plan management buttons to the header and grouped them by action. Added tooltips for every icon button. Adjusted the styling of the flight details page so that it's more consistent with other pages. Facility search bar result items, facility icon, ICAO, and facility name are aligned horizontally. Closing facility info pages will clear the facility search bar. Added a bounds verification to georeference charts to fix the issue where the aircraft icon was displayed in the wrong position. Allowed the fuel reorganization from the hangar and career mode. Payload and fuel options are combined and displayed in one page. Added a possibility to collapse the section when clicking on a section title in the route page. Added button to navigate to the mass and balance section of the aircraft app. Added support for loading fuel and payload into the active aircraft. Payload and fuel sections now have a total fuel and a total payload quick input setters. Fix an issue where seat positions could be incorrect or seat shapes might be missing due to an unresolved asynchronous call. Fix an issue where user waypoint altitudes were being misinterpreted using the wrong units when importing from a plan file. Fixed an issue where cruise altitude was mismatching between the flight planner, app, plan files, and ADC clearance. Fixed an issue where user waypoint idents were being overwritten when imported from a plan file. Fixed an issue where the remarks builder pop-up content would overflow on certain tablet settings without possibility to scroll. Improved mission lock display on the route page. Moved cruise altitude selection to a newly created performance section on the route page. The vertical line on the route page is now color-coded based on the flight plan segment. Added runway selector to the procedure selection page. Added synchronization of aircraft cruise. Speed on aircraft change. Added dark mode option for charts. Added a performance drop-down and pop-up to configure flight performance profile data on the route page. Added the ability to manage saving, updating, deleting flight plans stored on the web server. Added a confirmation pop-up when attempting to reset the flight plan on the route page. Added a collapse all sections button on the route page. Added configuration of step climbs on en route waypoints to the route page. Added add waypoint button to collapsed en route section of the route page. Added quick edit buttons to collapsed procedure sections section of the route page. Added quick edit buttons to collapsed procedure section of the route page. Added info buttons to collapsed airport sections of the route page. Minimap. Added ability to display fauna heat maps on EFB during world photographer missions. Added ability to display fauna heat maps on EFB. Does that mean you can find out where it's like infrared, or you can find out where the animals are. Because flying around trying to find stuff, man, can be a real patience tester. Fixed heading value format to be prefixed with zeros when values inferior to 100 degrees for more clarity. Fixed aircraft thumbnail background not being transparent in the aircraft app main menu. Fixed mission layer being cropped in other resolutions than 1920 by 1080. Aircraft tech. Fixed camera definition var toggle X1 visibility not reset when changing camera. Fixed HUD projection direction frame delay. Model behavior. Fixed signed interior overflow and RPM integer parsing when converting from double. Fixed Asobo IT altitude indicator template not allowing altimeter indications below 0 feet. Modified Asobo gauge animation parameters to allow specifying a gauge value percent directly. Fixed FSX animated tooltip not working. Modified Asobo count token and save helper to work similarly to Asobo count token helper instead of counting the total number of parameters in a save. Does any of this? I don't understand any of this. Some of that. Fixed a bug that made some screens flicker after a restart on interaction exit due to some materials not being flagged as HTML render target. Fixed frequency presets which were no longer functioning in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Henning stopped in the chat room. Hello, you're done with the year. Third last exam this year. Then you're done with this year. Far out, Henning. Sorry, man. I'm over here trying to get through this Systems 2 stuff. Fixed frequency presets parsing from crashing the build package process. I think I'm going to kind of skip some of this. Fix an issue in the Epic 2 model behavior template that caused tooltips to not work on the flight director coupling button. Modular aircraft section. Aircraft gameplay. Fixed default position for spawn exterior now calculated with aircraft size when not edited. Fixed multiple fades when spamming LBNB. Added a check to not go out of the aircraft if it's moving too much. Air traffic control. They should put all the really important stuff that you want to hear in something like this. Put all that at the top. In order of importance of the things people want to know about. Improved pronunciation of procedure names and transitions. Controller will speak the full runway position. Example, 27 left is 27 left. Pilot overflying announcement now says the airport ident. Fixed air traffic control not knowing about speed constraints on IFR procedures. Fixed selection of vectors to final approach transitions. Fixed request of a specific approach different to what the controller initially assigned. Fixed an issue where the IFR clearance included a SID that didn't match the active runway. Removed controller saying you are X miles east when not declaring a radar contact. Less pauses when saying frequencies and registrations. Fixed an issue where the approaches with no suffix were never assigned when approaches of the same type with a suffix existed. Fixed repeated altitude vectors while waiting for response to expected approach. Improved pronunciation of many phrases. Pilot will now include the airport ident and traffic at the end of all appropriate CTAF communications. Pilot overflying announcement now includes all appropriate details. Fixed incorrect altitude vectors followed immediately by different altitude vector when acknowledging the expect approach message. Checklist. Fixed checklist not reset when changing to an aircraft that does not have one. Fixed empty clue incorrectly showing up as an error. Make relative path function when used with include checkpoint library. External HUD. Fixed vertical speed value that could rise to infinity on long frames. Pre-flight. Added binding tools quick pre-flight, which removes the covers from the aircraft. Added binding. Tools quick pre-flight, which removes all the covers from the aircraft. People have been asking for that one. Like I don't want to go through the. I don't want to go pull the chocks and the pins and da 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 da. So you should be happy about that one. Added interaction, pre-flight, simple, pre-flight, interaction, interior, XML, to handle interior interactions as avatar. Added a link between the avatar's input and the aircraft's input to be able to quick finish pre-flight as avatar. Fixed the remove before flight material. It was very dark in the shade due to AO being black instead of white. Okay, passive aircraft. Okay. That's cool. They're fixing blurs on propellers on everything. Well, now I'm going to be looking at all the passive aircraft a little bit more. It's like you were saying earlier in the chat. Yeah, this is a lot. I hope a lot of this is noticeable, and I hope it makes a lot of people happy. I'll be happy if the brake things get fixed. I'm getting like PTSD. Now, I found out that PTSD is not just from military, but it's like you talk about PTSD, man, that's, you shouldn't talk about that's for military people. PTSD can happen to anybody for any kind of stress. I found out. Okay. So I'm not making light of anything anybody in the military ever goes through. I have nothing but respect for military. But I do mention having PTSD from flying tail draggers in 2024. And I love the de Havilland Beaver, and I love it. But now I'm starting to hate it. Because, again, the brake, you press the brake button, and no matter what speed you're going, the thing just wants to tip right on over. And I can't imagine that in the real world, that it's like that at all. No way. So, I'm hoping that got fixed. I'm hoping that, it slipped by and these extensive notes I'm still scrolling through for passive aircraft. Vehicles. They've even got a section for all the issue on vehicles. Liveries on the Van Asia Vintage. On the minibus. Career mode. Again, this stuff should all be at the top. Fixed translation for advanced options in world map filters. Fixed translations in insurance unlock pop-ups. Added a pop-up to indicate when a new headquarters unlocked. Changed cradle missions to be visible when the world map is in freelancer mode. Because I've already read through some of this, people are tuning out. They're like, "Oh my god, I don't want to hear any of this stuff. Where's the good stuff?" Added missions filter for difficulty and specializations. Added pop-up on disabled button. Create company when trying to create a company for a specialization that you haven't played. The Cradle. Credit earned in missions are now displayed on the briefing. Added numbers to aircraft components with the same name in the aircraft management screen. Changed the salvage coverage pop-up to clarify the information. Fixed regional liveries in correct region and missions hangar. Add a reminder of aircraft's name and type in the flight plan briefing and pause screens. Fixed icon not being a rotorcraft when hovering a freelance mission using the rotorcraft and not having any on site. Added proper text for the technician in the aircraft management screen. Modified the duration and distance displayed in missions briefing to more accurate values. Added fuel management on employee missions. Changed abandoning aircraft mission failure to a simple notification displaying input to go back to aircraft. Added support for electrical and hybrid aircraft in career mode. Added support for electric and hybrid aircraft in career mode. Anyway, I thought there would be more to that. General bug fixes, added specific error pop-up when trying to transfer a grounded aircraft, added feedback when trying to repair an aircraft without enough credits, fixed an issue where mandatory checkup times would be incorrect in the fleet screen, fixed an aircraft store sometimes displaying the world in the background, added in specific error message when trying to buy the 101st aircraft, 1001st aircraft, fixed wrong aircraft flight time displayed in passive income screen, fixed wear and tear category states not being representative of the overall state of their components. Fixed incorrect remaining time displayed on exotic mission cards when the actual remaining time exceeds 24 hours. Fixed account history screen not showing passive income details. Fixed an infinite loading when writing a very long company name in the company naming screen. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Fixed unrelated aircraft unlocked shown in the aircraft unlock pop-up after passing a certification. Fixed instructor displayed instead of the mentor's name in the aircraft store onboarding. Fixed the number of completed missions displayed in the career statistics screen. Added scrolling text when hovering truncated text in specialization section. Fixed auto-scrolling text to subtitles when introducing career features. Added an icon for overstressed components in management checkup. Fixed gamepad navigation locked when in configurator screen while buying brand new aircraft. Fixed aircraft with crew and aircraft to checkup counters in the company overview screen. The deliver a screen when buying an aircraft and the aircraft transfer screen now showing available missions compatible with that aircraft. Fixed fuel alert not activating when having enough fuel. Fixed aircraft name being different between the aircraft store and the company fleet. Fixed weather layer not available in career world map. Fixed wrong aircraft displayed in aircraft store when coming from mission. Fixed company edit name button not working in density tab. Fixed reset career not disabled when security checkbox is unchecked. Fixed the insurance salvage coverage pop-up not showing after a crash when the insurance covers 100% of it. Fixed mission briefing page sometimes showing outdated weather information. Fixed back on track that do not respond on flight plan when intended. Fixed could not launch aircraft missions after a rotorcraft free flight or world photographer. Fixed error occurring after suspending the game on Xbox. Emissions. Fixed back on track position during fly around phase. Fixed co-pilot fuel warnings and cargo missions. Allowed a larger landing radius around the airport. Fixed the step announce clear runway that prevented player from reaching the maximum score on airline procedure objective. Fixed calculator values rested on switch from avatar to plane. Fixed an issue with air traffic control steps no longer completing if a player exited the aircraft after turning the engine on. Added aviator performance for engine over torque. Fixed landing smoothness scoring not displayed on reward screen. Fixed multiple textural mistakes throughout career and certifications. Added hard landing aviator performance and career activities. Fixed enter runway step displayed when taking off from a helipad. Fixed incomplete pre-flight and incomplete loading failures that can be triggered by a mistake. Fixed cruise dialogues in private charter airline. Added landing smoothness aviator performance in every certification but PPL. Fixed centerline scoring and certification. Fixed scoring for parking announced when no parking available. Fixed mission validation when the aircraft stranded on the tarmac. Fixed exceeded max FPS at touchdown. Penalty triggered during landing phase. Fixed initial climb validation when taking off from a helipad. Fixed parking announcement scoring. Remove hold short step when landing on helipad. Added ambulance. Ambulance at the arrival airport for medical missions. Fixed meals dialogue playing twice. Well, I like seconds. So that one, I've never heard it. That wouldn't bother me. They're feeding me twice? Fixed taxi ribbon assistance being locked in career mode. Fixed path brackets being tied to wrong assistance. Taxi ribbon instead of flight path. Fixed visual waypoint assistant not working as intended. Fixed aircraft able to move during the RTC of the career's mission. Put back the avatar into the aircraft after walking away during the familiarization flight's takeoff. Fixed double air traffic control steps that appear simultaneous. Good. Fixed air traffic control procedure score, which can sometimes be negative. Fixed aviator performance undesignated landing area, sometimes triggering when following the flight ribbon. Fixed bug when pushback is not available. Fixed liveries of dynamic vehicle according to region emissions. Fixed multiple textual mistakes throughout career and certifications. Add aerial advertising. Added step for closing hook during banner retrieving phase. Aerial construction. Added co-pilot. Added missing dialogues. Firefighting. Fixed chrono scoring and firefighting. Cargo transport. Hook. Rotorcraft. Added dialogue variations for intro, cruise, and cruise back. Familiarization flight. Fixed a step that displayed a misleading binding. Fixed an issue where irrelevant leavent steps and notification was shown while playing in VR. Fixed visual assistances. Issues such as inability to control flight path assistance. Flight seeing. Added landing feedback dialogue. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, whenever you land, they usually do give you some feedback. Maybe it's more. Medevac. Fixed step. Climb to that did not disappear even after requesting a reroute. Fixed obsolete in-game marker displayed in some medevac missions. Search and rescue. Fixed skip to search area. Blocked by dialogues. Modified distance to validate bush landing. Fixed wrong dialogue during belly landing flow. Fixed rescue cinematic playing twice. Added search area display in pause menu. Added automatic detection when the player did not detect the target but remained nearby for a long time. Added automatic detection when the player did not detect the target but remained nearby for a long time. Fixed feedback for landing smoothness, aviator performance triggered during skip to landing. Fixed rescuer not entering in the aircraft during hoist phase. Changed spawn position after crash to face the target. Added shrinking search area after a certain amount of research time. Added dialogue variations for incorrect victim detention. Search and rescue. Hoist rotorcraft. Added target kneeling animation when on life raft. Changed area detection to start hoisting. Changed hoist actions to improve missions flow. Added dialogues when detecting the wrecked boat to remind that the objective is to find the lifeboat. Fixed cabin service state after back on track during hoist. Fixed hoist step not validating before leaving hover area. Fixed back on track not teleporting the target. Added visual feedback for hover area. Added steps to show rescuer proximity to target. Skydive. Fixed back on track when crashing during jump run. Fixed flight plan's descent rate. It's amazing how fast they want you to come down after you drop off your people. Or you don't get a good score. You got to be like a dive bomber and not rip the wings off. There's no such thing as safety first, I think, with Skydive Aviation. They don't care. They're just like, get back to the airport now. Fix an issue where the score for following the flight plan was sometimes unfair. Certifications. Fix an issue where the score for following the flight plan was sometimes unfair. Added taxi speeding aviator performance to certifications. Fix an issue where brackets were not displayed after back on tracks. Fix an issue where step maintain altitude was validated too easily. Added hard landing aviator performance and certifications. Fixed wrong mission failure screen shown when crashing in missions which start in the air. Fixed proximity to flight plan scoring. Fixed flight plans in NEOFLY and minimap. Airline transport pilot license. Fix an issue where players were never prompted to extend their gears and where it was impossible to get a full score for maintaining the correct altitude. Fixed full throttle step not disappearing on validation. Commercial pilot license. Rotorcraft changed landing flow to ask players to leave the runway before shutdown. Instrument flight rules, instrument rating. Fix an issue where it was impossible to have the maximum score for respecting the flight plan altitudes. Fixed aviator performance when landing on the right runway. Fixed an issue with CDI and transponder not configured properly. Fixed wrong positioning of the first marker of the flight path. Jet transport airliner rating. Fixed an issue where the step maintain altitude at 3,000 feet was not validating correctly. Fixed an issue where restarting the certification would trigger an aviator performance for overspeed. Fixed visual assistance to make them manageable from the settings. Multi-engine rating. Fixed an issue where players using devices binded to the engine 1 master switch would fail the certification because the engine was restarted by the device. Rotorcraft hoist. Updated and fixed flow, as in rescue mission. Rotorcraft hook. Changed drop area size to prevent dropping the cargo in the air. Scoop endorsement. Fixed an issue where the step drop water was displaying the wrong input. Removed, not related to water, operations training from the Scoop certifications page. Turboprop engine rating. Added a short introduction to the new overtorque aviator performance. Changed step for reverse thrust to display the correct input. Turboprop transport airliner rating. Fixed an issue where player might pitch down and validate the step, fly straight and level, making it impossible to stall for reaching the next waypoint. Fixed an issue where player did not have to complete the stall maneuver to get a full score. Online services. Added an error message when trying to join a group that is already full. Fixed sliding plane in multiplayer when the pilot leaves the cockpit. Improved multiplayer planes position and movements on the world map. Weather. Fixed accessibility layer in weather. Fixed an issue where incorrect METARs were used instead of the METARs for the currently selected time. Fixed a rare crash that could occur when using the historic weather slider. Fixed an issue where live weather data could interpolate with historical weather data from 24 hours ago and break the cache for all users. Streaming. Moved streamed packages to installation path next to community and official folders. Improved rolling cache, usage, and efficiency. World. Fixed a few cases introducing blur into aerials. Aerials no longer use super sampling option. They're now always sharp. Replace the ice outline around frozen shores with ice flows. Enabled lake freezing under very low temperatures. Fixed stretching artifacts in terrain textures. Removed giant trees from corrupted tin areas. Improved the blending system between tile levels of detail, improving the visual quality while reducing popping in areas without photogrammetry. Improved snow effect on the world map. Fixed night lights distorting on tall tin buildings. Fixed holes in coastal cliffs that can be present when close to the camera. Fixed terrain level of details that could be suddenly reduced to bare minimum when zooming in while in altitude. Fixed height artifacts on terrain when switching displacement mapping on improved performance of procedural rocks. Fixed land strip ice appearing at junctions of two water bodies alongside some other rare water body issues. Fixed point of interest integrations in London and surroundings. Optimized number of streamed dem tiles. Added an option in 3ds Max to enable flares on the street lights. Fixed wrong texture directories being cached and generating scenery index. Fixed slight offset and rendering of custom water polygons. Aerials no longer use super sampling. They're now always sharp. That's a repeat. Airports. Fixed old ground service pilots to use old versions of 2020. Airport activity page swap to and from airports. Fixed buildings occasionally spawning too close to a runway. Yeah, I've noticed that. That one for sure. I'm like, who would do this? Who in their right mind would put this right here? Added a frequency preset to gyro lights rotation, making the rotation smoother even when far away. Blinking airport lights are now more responsive when TAA is enabled. Fixed being sometimes teleported to another helipad after the RTC and free flight. Fixed helipads start heading not being used for departure. Exclude generated buildings from taxiways. Fixed low-resolution visual artifacts on airport aprons and runways that can be visible when the sun was low. Excluded trees from parking spots and taxi paths. Gaia fixed SPGL Chagall Airport with versions 2.04. Fixed terraforming fixes needed for both the taxiway apron and the walking path into the terminal, blah, blah, blah. Gaia. Okay, now we're going into things about specific airports. I think we might be at the bottom now, too, where it's all going to be about these level of details at different airports. I'm pretty sure this is it, but I will keep going. EDM, in array. Yep. Keep scrolling down. Hangars. Again, why not put this cool, put anything cool that people want to know about all the way at the top. Fixed aircraft being upside down in the extended firefighting mission. Haven't seen that. Removed wind inside aircraft configurator, headquarter, and missions hangar. Fixed aircraft not loading in aircraft configurator when selecting too fast, and fixed aircraft having seatbelt displayed before the whole model in the aircraft configurator. Make it make sense. Fixed pilot appearing in the aircraft configurator when player's aircraft is from a 2020 package. Vegetation. Fixed grass render distance. Added one or two low medium height trees or bushes to most forest biomes to soften forest edges. While this may make the undergrowth appear denser, the change prioritizes the pilot's perspective over a hiker's view. Higher ratio of deciduous species in temperate mixed cities. Moved Western Great Lakes forest from deciduous to mixed cold North America. Reduced ratio of Acer rubrum mixed cold North America. moved southeast U.S. conifer savannas and temperate evergreen city biomes, and removed any tropical look and feel tree in that biome, plus reduced trees' density and average height. Reduced a bit of dominance of sylvestris for more pleasant forest overview and conifer warm evergreen biome. Create a larger version of Artemisia for steppe biome to replace deciduous look and feel species in that cold biome. Added a city biome for steppe ecoregion for more deciduous trees. You're into all this tree stuff. Vegetation. Added other missing Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 biomes to prevent later issue reports. Miscellaneous traffic, air traffic. Fixed air traffic occupying the same parking space. Fixed aircraft taxiing in the air. Fixed aircraft not facing the right direction when spawned parking. Marketplace. Fixed an issue where some discounted items will be missing from the on-sale filter. Added a notification when the new 2024 add-on upgrades are available. Added a filter to browse by compatible career specialization. Good. That maybe means we are going to be able to use other planes now. Added new info on library items when unverified, currently incompatible, or permanently incompatible. Fixed an issue where the price slider would snap back to its max value. My library. Added a pop-up when disabling a career-compatible marketplace add-on. Accessibility. Fixed an issue where going into the top right toolbar would not properly indicate the hints to go back to the input bar. Fixed transcribe optionality in both matching and non-matching languages when using remote speech to text. Add a speech synthesis for STT, translation, and translate text chat option. Virtual reality. Fixed moving the cursor over an in-game panel interacts with the game window. Fixed an issue causing some attached iterations do not block the VR ray in some cases. Fixed an issue causing hidden yokes to still affect the VR rays. Fixed an invisible UI in VR that was taking array casts. Fixed the toolbar that closed itself when resetting the panels in VR. Fixed the mission steps panel did not appear by default when switching to VR. Now, when switching to VR, all the default settings of the game mode are reapplied. Fixed mission steps not displaying VR controllers icons. Removed the VR compatibility pop-up. Fixed the UI inputs broken after using the certification tree. Fixed in-game panels position and size not saved in VR. Fixed invisible in-game panels when exiting VR mode. Added native foveated rendering feature in the engine. When enabled in the graphics setting, uses quad views rendering technique to improve your GPU performance. The higher the resolution, the higher the gain. Works for any headset. Can add some CPU overhead. If eye tracking is available enabled for your headset, it should provide best results. Fixed group missions on world map impossible to select in VR. Holding the yoke will now disable its highlight. Fixed render scale options in VR tab not applying while in VR. Fixed no free cam control with VR controllers default profiles. Fixed not being able to rotate the player character left-right during pre-flight with VR controllers default profiles. Fixed night lights and transparent objects leaking through the clouds in VR. Fixed VR graphic preset low, not setting rocks, grass, and plants to a lower setting. Fixed a random crash when switching to VR and dev mode and smart docking systems activated. Fixed a 100% crash on enabling quad views when using HDR monitors on Windows. Fixed interaction in VR for the collective helicopters to be implementing a similar logic to the yokes. Currently only applied to the H-125 and Cabri, but can be applied by third parties on their helicopters by defining the parameters in the CFG and disabling the collective model behavior interaction in VR. Fixed the interaction with the cockpit were lost after resuming from the pause in VR. Fixed the EFB panel scroll input behaviors in VR. Fixed the toolbar was not interactable in VR with the mouse when the controllers were in proximity mode. Added the option to move the FB when it's undocked in VR. Made the FB interactable when externalized. Fixed the conflict of interaction between instruments and V cockpits in VR. The distance was not taken into account when instruments and V cockpits were aligned. Fixed holding and dragging. A list should not click on the selected title. Fixed right VR controllers missing default. Input profiles for some headsets. Fix an issue preventing the yoke controller from working after leaving pause screen. Improve the gesture detection for lever and knob interactions. Fixed an issue preventing the yoke controller from working properly in VR for the skyship. Fixed ready to fly button not clickable in VR. Fixed in-game panels position and size, not saved when going to the pause menu. Mapped unbind in control settings to left and right controllers. Fixed missing scrolling in menus with right joysticks and VR controllers. Fixed inverted in-flight UI panels zoom access on VR controllers. Controls and peripherals. Change behavior with the cockpit camera reset. Now set the current view originally positioned to the selected pilot camera. Added throttle idle actions with sets all throttle and idle positions. Updated throttle. Added more info pages on the controls depending on whether you're in the controls and the settings of an action or in the settings of a device. Change the wording of the tooltips to give more of info on what has changed when applying an input profile in the controls menu. Added new help page to the controls menu. Fixed vertical camera movement blocked in cursor mode while the toggle cockpit view free look hold action is active. Fix the translation of the categories that were linked to the airplane in the controls menu. Add import export controls feature. Fix the input category specific to the aircraft was not updated correctly when switching aircrafts in the control settings. Stored aircraft specific controls into a dedicated category in the controls menu. Fix the handle in the curves menu of the device and of the action. Then we go into peripherals, peripheral fixes, new controls, activities, leaderboard only displaying up to 10 entries from time to time, fix subtitle scrolling speed, wrong temperature displayed mission briefings, low altitude challenges, smooth goal pin and low alt challenges, training, fix training stuff. The training menu, the training stuff always bothers me. The training lessons are just never great. Challenges series, free flight. Travel book. My lord. So much audio. Fixed Morse and marker sound being triggered multiple times. Windmill sound added. Windsock sound added. Fixed lip sync for instructor inside helicopter solo training. I'd never noticed. Improved player character animations in first and third person views. Fixed avatars ground marks drawn when avatars paused. Developer tools, dev mode, general, navigation graph editor, project editor, scenery editor, material editor, the SDK, general SDK samples, SimVars, input events, WASM API, JS API, EFB API, tools, exporter 3ds Max, exporter Blender, and that's it. Wow, that took almost an hour. Whew. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope that the problems that have been plaguing you in any aspect of Flight Simulator 2024 are fixed. I'll know more tomorrow when I get back in here and back into it. I have to go do other things today and don't have a chance to really mess with it. I'm still praying that they fix the brakes, but I doubt it. All these things to get fixed, and like the one thing I'm waiting for. We fixed the damn brakes. The one thing. One thing. Oh, and also maybe to be able to use my Skyvan in career missions. That'd be nice. So, again, I hope they fixed anything that was bothering you. I hope it's in here. And I'm sorry I didn't read through every single thing, but oof. Have a great day. Adios. I need some serious water after that.